In 2019, the FBI confirmed that Samuel Little is the most prolific serial killer in U.S. history. He confessed to more than 90 murders spanning 19 states, brutal killings that took place over the course of more than 3 decades. And dozens of these cases, over 60 now, have been confirmed by the FBI to the point that while he may never have been convicted in court, based on details he knew about the murders that were never made available to the public, based on how the victims died and where Sam Little was when they died, the FBI is positive that Sam Little was the last person these poor people saw before they died. He was the person they saw while they died. It was his hands that were around their necks and squeezing. Necks that Sam Little had a unnatural, horrific fixation on. It was always the victim's neck that first drew him in. A neck that stirred up dark, dark urges and desires inside of him that had been there since he was a little boy. Starting in the early 1970s, Little traveled all around the United States, living a very nomadic lifestyle, picking up women at bars, then taking them to remote areas where he beat, raped, and strangled them to death. Only a few were known to have survived an encounter with him, and those brave women would eventually get their chance to testify against him in court and help put away a monster for good after he'd been on a crime spree that had lasted damn near 60 years. No U.S. serial killer, no one who was eventually caught at least, ever hunted for as long or roamed as far and as wide as the choke and stroke killer, Samuel Little. So get ready for another true crime, serial killing, insight into the mind of a true monster edition of Timesuck.
This is Michael McDonald, and you're listening to Timesuck.
You're listening to Timesuck.
Happy Monday, and welcome back to the Cult of the Curious. I'm Dan Cummins, Suck Nasty, door safety advocate, guy who still really enjoys, probably too much, yelling, La luz del mundo! Guy who longs to be Lucifina's snack, and you are listening to Timesuck. So hail Nimrod, hail Lucifina, praise be to good boy Bojangles, and glory be to Triple M. Just like last week, I still think you're great. And I have a great music suggestion for you. I'm late to the party on this band, but do any of you listen to Turnstile? Holy fuck. I have come across some really other good bands lately, like Viagra Boys, Lambrini Girls. Been listening to a lot of Death from Above, 1979, and Idol still, reappreciating a lot of Father John Misty and Radiohead lately. But no one has got me as fucking hyped in the past few months as Turnstile. Their new song, Seeing Stars. Such a nice, chill track, makes me just want to sit out in the sun, be quiet and still, reflect on life. And then their other new song, Birds, makes me want to punch some holes in the drywall of my house before I burn it down, start a revolution where we overthrow the fucking government, behead most elected officials, and build a new society where oligarchs don't stand on our fucking throats. Some of Turnstile's shit, so fucking raw and intense. I love it. If you're looking for some new shit this summer, yeah, check them out. Check all those bands out. Music is life. But also, please still find some time to keep listening to me too. I play some music here and there. You know, every once in a while I treat you to this nice little, little jingles, like Dinosaur Bones, stuff like that. And now, my Dinosaur Bone fans, do I have a dark tale for you? In October of 2017, author and journalist Jillian Lauren was doing research for a novel on the Black Dahlia case. When she landed an interview with renowned LAPD cold case detective Mitzi Roberts. Lauren asked Roberts which case she was most proud of, and Roberts told her, I did catch a serial killer named Sam Little once. That was pretty cool. Sam had been convicted of 3 murders in Los Angeles, murders Mitzi helped finally bring Sam to justice for, and she suspected that Sam was responsible for many, many more murders all across the country. He had targeted the so-called less dead, a term I just finally became familiar with. Not sure how I missed it in all my true crime endeavors. Might be because I never really listened to other true crime podcasts or watched that many true crime docs outside of whatever I'm, doing an episode on. It's a term that was coined by whom I don't know to refer to the majority of serial killer victims. People who belong to marginalized groups of society, people who lack the same level of prestige or power as other societal groups, comparatively far less disenfranchised, who come from higher, socioeconomic statuses. less disenfranchised than people who come from those higher socioeconomic statuses. People like sex workers, the homeless, migrant workers, your mom, women struggling with addiction, impoverished women of color, etc. Sorry about the mom comment. I probably don't know your mom, so it's hard for me to definitively speak to her, socioeconomic or social status. Seriously, though, these people are referred to as less dead because before they were killed, they were seen as less alive. They were people essentially ignored and devalued by their own communities or members of their neighborhoods, people generally not missed once they were gone, and thus their disappearances much less likely to ever be investigated. Most serial killers target these victims because if they didn't, they'd be much more likely to get caught before they'd killed enough people to become a serial killer. LAPD cold case detective Mitzi Roberts, all too familiar with killers who preyed on the less dead, and she knew Sam was one of these killers. Then when Jillian Lauren looked into Sam's rap sheet, she saw it was over 100 pages long and involved crimes committed across, 24 states. Dude was like a dark version of that old Hank Snow song popularized by Johnny Cash.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere, man. Across the deserts bare, man. I breathe the mountain air, man. Of travel I've had my share, man. I've been everywhere.
Sam Little is everywhere.
I've been to Reno, Chicago, Fargo, Minnesota, Buffalo, Toronto, Winslow, Sarasota, Wichita, Tulsa, Ottawa, Oklahoma, Tampa, Panama, Mattawa, La Paloma, Bangor, Baltimore, Salvador, Amarillo, Tocopilla, Barranquilla, and Padilla. I'm a killer. I've been everywhere.
Now just imagine if that song was about where Cash had killed people. And you get Sam Little, or some version of him. Sam had been charged with theft, battery, assault, rape, even murder prior to his final arrest, and yet he'd only served a combined total of about 10 years in prison. And he was 77 years old now. For half a century of his adult life, he'd been out there on the streets doing God knows what, and Lauren wondered how much of that time he had spent hunting the less alive. She decided she was going to look further into his case. She did, and 6 years later, she presented her work in her 2023 best-selling nonfiction book called Behold the Monster, Confronting America's Most Prolific Serial Killer. And while we've added further details from dozens of other sources, including some other books, without her book, we wouldn't have felt like we would have had enough of a story to share here today. She did an incredible job. She first met with Sam Little in August of 2018. Over several interviews, he opened up about various aspects of his personal life, and he confessed details of several murders. Details he would only confess to Lauren. He liked her, and she would be the only journalist to ever extensively interview Samuel Little, who died on December 30th, 2020 at the age of 80. Fortunately, earlier that year, Sam had also given statements about a wide range of unsolved murders to Texas Ranger James Holland. He gave even more details, a few years previously to this same law enforcement officer. Next to Lauren's work, Holland's information is what we leaned on the most. In total, Sam would confess to 93 murders, committed over a period of roughly 34 years, between 1971 and 2005. In today's exceptionally bloody timeline, we'll discuss the early life and criminal history and the known murder cases of Samuel Little, a murderer who some investigators in L.A. had dubbed the choke and stroke killer before his final arrest due to his modus operandi of choking victims to death while he masturbated over their bodies. We'll cover how he was finally caught and identified as a serial killer after so many years of ping-ponging around the United States. And we'll cover his detailed confessions. We might even talk about the one time he has dick slammed in a door, too, and severed it off, which left the choke and stroke killer with only a tiny little nub to stroke, which made him even more angry and bloodthirsty than before. But I probably won't mention that because it might be nonsense, but it might not be. I wasn't around Sam and his dirty dick every time he closed the door, were you? Let's get started.
Strap on those boots, soldier. We're marching down a Timesuck timeline.
Samuel Little, no middle name, born on June 7th, 1940 in Reynolds, Georgia, tiny city about 100 miles south of Atlanta, kind of in the middle of nowhere, about 25 miles west of I-75. Less than 1,000 residents lived there or lived there when Sam was born. Well, also less than 1,000 live there now. Reynolds' most notable resident outside of Sam Little is Earl Little Sr., father of Malcolm Little, a.k.a. Malcolm X, the Revolutionary. And Malcolm X's father and Sam Little's mother were first cousins, making Malcolm X's second cousin America's most prolific serial killer. Too bad Sam hadn't been shot dead as a young man instead of Malcolm. Clearly, the wrong Little got assassinated. Sam's mother was 16-year-old Bessie Mae Little. His father was 19-year-old Paul McDowell. As an adult, Sam will frequently use the last name of McDowell as his alias. Sam claimed that his mother was a, quote, lady of the night. A 1940 U.S. Census listed Bessie Mae Little's occupation as maid. Did she also engage in sex work? I mean, could have. Gillian Lauren wrote in her book, and she would interview relatives of Sam's in addition to just interviewing him, that Bessie Mae lived with her grandmother, Josephine Little, and delivered the baby in the same house, even on the same bed where her own mother had died during her childbirth. It was a difficult labor, but Bessie Mae gave birth to a strong and healthy baby boy. No one in the dirt poor family wanted another baby to feed, though. A baby whose dad was not in the picture to help. Josephine became deeply depressed. She wouldn't even allow her baby to be named. She barely touched or looked at him. Sam Little showed up in the world completely unwanted. How did that fuck with his developing baby brain? Not in any good ways, I'm sure. Bessie Mae wished that her little boy had never been born. Her life was hard enough before he had showed up, and now it was going to be worse. Before she'd given birth to him, she'd even tried to get rid of him numerous times. And she'd had help. Josephine and her sisters had tried to cause Bessie Mae to have a miscarriage by tying a rope around her stomach and pulling until she had screamed. They'd pushed her down the stairs on one occasion. No word on whether or not last week's subject, Michael Peterson, was near those stairs when she was pushed down them. I mean, anytime a lady takes a nasty tumble down the stairs, a check should be done to make sure Michael Peterson wasn't near her when she fell. Her sisters once tried to get her to drink turpentine, but she couldn't hold it down. And Bessie Mae's uncle Otis allegedly tried to kill the baby after he was born by smothering him with a pillow, but he couldn't go through with it. Not quite. If all of that is true, no fucking wonder this kid grew up to be a serial killer. When her still unnamed son was 6 months old, Josephine kicked her granddaughter, Bessie Mae, out of her house and said she could only come back if she didn't have the baby, Josephine's great-grandson, with her. So Bessie Mae, for some reason my brain, every time I read her name, if you notice like a little hitch, I want to say Messy Bay. I have no idea why. It's not like Messy Bay makes more sense than Bessie Mae. But Bessie Mae laid the baby down in the mud on the side of the road, left him there, praying to God that God would save him. That's so fucking sad and crazy if true. Also, the mud on the side of the road, really? Couldn't at least dump the poor baby off at a church or fire station? According to Little family lore, about an hour later, a Reynolds resident named Mr. Quint found the baby, brought him to the home of Fanny and Henry McDowell. He insisted that the baby was their son Paul's baby, and Fanny agreed. She knew right away, just from looking at him, that he was her blood. But her son Paul, who did acknowledge he was the baby's father, also did not want the baby, straight up refused to claim him. Fanny didn't want another mouth to feed, but she agreed to take him in. She couldn't stand to see this baby just abandoned by everyone in the family. It was just so shameful. Her friend, Mrs. Ballard, who was with her that night, later said that Sam was a gift from God and that she named him Samuel after the biblical prophet. Little did she know, no pun intended, that if any deity was associated with this little child, pun intended now, it would be the devil. In 1942, Samuel's adopted father/biological grandfather, Henry McDowell, got on a train leaving Georgia for the Midwest to find better paying work. He told Fanny he'd send for her once he had the means to provide a better life for her, and he did send for her about 2 years later when Sam was around 4 years old. Fanny packed up her belongings, walked the 2 miles with Samuel to the rail yard. No Uber in those days, right? No taxis in that part of the country either. They boarded a train, then arrived in Lorain, Ohio the following morning. Lorain's located up in North Ohio on Lake Erie, about 25 miles west of Cleveland, today part of the Cleveland metro area. And love Cleveland, by the way. More all the time. Lindsay's hometown does not get the respect it should. Lorain had a population of around 44,000 in the early 1940s, and in 2020, the population would be around 65,000, so a little bigger today. Henry McDowell purchased a house in a predominantly white middle-class neighborhood, unusual for the time. Fanny was nervous about the arrangement. This was something that didn't happen where she was from, down back in Georgia back then. Would have been an invitation for violence, but Henry reassured her that they were a short walk from other black residents and that Sam would, be able to walk over to those other residents and make some new friends. But he wouldn't do that because he was weird as fuck. Fanny and Henry's children, their daughter Jamina and son Henry Jr., soon followed their parents to Ohio. Sam's dad's Paul, who had been drafted to fight in World War II, returned from the war in 1945, and there was an agreement not to tell Sam. He grew up thinking he was Henry and Fanny's youngest son and that Paul was his older brother, and not his biological father. Paul quickly got married to a young woman named Betty down in Georgia, found work as a brick mason, built a house in Lorraine near his parents, and he went on to have 7 additional children whom Sam grew up believing were his nieces and nephews instead of his siblings. According again to author Gillian Lauren, Fanny and Henry loved Sam, but they were well past child-rearing years. Sam was more of an indulgence than a responsibility. Paul didn't want him. What new wife wants a constant daily reminder of her husband's sordid past? Fanny and Henry resigned themselves to raising Paul's child as their own. Sam grew up loved, but also neglected. Fanny fed Sam when she remembered to. She got him new shoes when she could, dressed him in hand-me-downs given to her by relatives, and since she and Henry weren't exactly fucking pumped to be raising another kid, especially as Sam grew up and they got older, when he was not around, they didn't really worry about where he was or what was happening to him. They were glad just to kind of have a break from taking care of him, it seems. With no one really keeping a close eye on him, when he was 5 years old, Sam ended up getting sexually abused by his Uncle Jimmy at his Aunt Jamina's house. Sam had gone into the kitchen looking for something to eat, ravenous because he hadn't been fed all day. His uncle came into the kitchen with no one else home to hear or what was going on or protect him, grabbed a little kindergarten-age kid, and forced him to perform oral sex. So this is looking like another one of those examples of watching a serial killer be made, not born. Growing up, as his uncle continued to molest him for an undisclosed amount of time, Sam began to have behavioral problems. Not surprising, right? That's generally how that works. Also started acting weird. People think he's strange for being seen frequently pushing a handcart around after dark, and yeah, that's fucking strange. His parents didn't seem to care if and when he came home, so he spent a lot of time just wandering the streets with no one really staying on top of him, making sure his grades are good. He's, that he's doing well in school. He becomes a poor student. He liked sports, wanted to play basketball, but he couldn't quite keep track of his game schedule, and it's not like anyone else was helping keep track of it for him. What he was good at was stealing. He loved it. Gave him a real thrill to be able to take something he didn't pay for and not get caught for it. I get it. I was a juvenile delinquent with some real sticky fingers for a few years. It was a huge rush. That song used to be my anthem. That handcart Sam had been seen pushing around, well, he stole that from a local hardware store. He'd sneak around the neighborhood, watching people in their houses, and when they were busy or distracted, he would do stuff like steal their car batteries and bring them to a man who paid 75 cents for each one. Sam would remember having his first crush while he was in 3rd grade, a girl named Carol Messenger. He'd known Carol since kindergarten, but he suddenly became especially fascinated with her in the 3rd grade. And it was around that time that Samuel discovered looking at necks, women's necks specifically, left him feeling very sexually aroused, which is a pretty big uh-oh. Well, for some people. For Sam it was. It wouldn't be uh-oh for everybody. He later told investigators he got his first erection when he felt his kindergarten teacher touch his neck. Dude loved necks. And again, not a big problem for a normal person, right? Who doesn't love a neck? Who doesn't like their neck kissed, caressed? Who doesn't like to kiss or caress someone else's neck? But with a dude like Sam, that interest is going to turn violent, which will obviously not be good for a lot of people in their poor, fragile necks. In the spring of 1953, 12-year-old Sam and 2 of his friends, Jimmy and Billy, they all decided to run away to Oberlin College in Ohio, just a short bus ride away. Sam had enough money from selling those stolen batteries to buy all their tickets. Once they arrived on campus, the boys stole 3 bicycles. And I'm talking about actual bicycles, not women, for any longtime dedicated listeners. What did they plan to do with those bicycles? I'm not sure even they knew. Probably ride them off some ramps, crash them in some ditches. Probably wanted to ride them too hard and throw them off some bridges or something. Whatever they did with them, they were caught within 10 minutes when a gas station attendant called the police. And now Sam was sentenced to a little over a year at the Boys Industrial School in Fairfield County, Ohio. Sam arrived at the BIS February 8, 1954, and luckily he wouldn't be given the same kind of welcome party that would leave him with a real tender butthole, like old Pee Wee Gaskins was given when he was sent away. This BIS, thankfully, not some kind of sadistic rape farm. At the BIS, boys lived in cottages rather than cells. It was, quote, an open, semi-military, almost entirely self-sufficient farm school, where the boys grew their own food and made their own clothes. After a welcome speech from the warden and his wife, the boys were separated by race and went to processing based on the severity of their crimes. In 1954, BIS had 800 boys between 8 and 16 years old. There were 4 dorms for the white boys and 4 dorms for black boys. You can't have white juvenile delinquents mixing with black juvenile delinquents. I mean, you might end up with, I don't know. You might maybe end up with super racially tolerant juvenile delinquents who end up stealing from both white and black folks alike who knows. Inmates were given demerits based on their crimes, which were displayed on cards hung around their necks like scarlet letters. Boys lost demerits for good behavior, and they were released once they'd made it to 0 demerits, even if they hadn't yet completed their assigned sentences. Many of the boys at school tried to behave, follow the rules, because obviously that would get them released earlier, but not Sam. The average student would stay at BIS for 12 months. Sam would be there for 19 months. His behavior far from exemplary. He was released when he was 15. He'd earned 47 infractions by the time he was released in September of 1955. For comparison, most of the boys there only had 1 or 2 infractions on their record. Sam was labeled in his file as especially incorrigible. Very true. Boys spent half their day in school, other half working. They did farm labor, attended vocational school. As part of his farm duties, Sam raised animals, grew vegetables, also participated in boxing and the drill team, and then he went home. Shortly after he made it back to Lorraine, he began to wonder why his mom, Fanny, always called Sam's older brother, Paul, when he needed a whooping. He finally mentioned it to some of his cousins, and one of them, Paul Jr., told him, Paul was your dad, not your brother. Seemed like everybody knew this but Samuel. Sam was furious. He calls him liars. Things get so heated. His father/grandfather, Henry, who was present during the conversation, grabbed a poker from the fireplace, swung it at Sam, hit him in the temple. Sam then grabbed him in a headlock, wrestled him down to the floor, cut off his ability to breathe, and then whipped his dick out, started furiously beating off before he came all over his papa daddy. The long reign of old choke and stroke had begun. No, he choked papa daddy, but he didn't stroke. Fanny pleaded for Henry's life. Sam let him go. He then fell to the floor, crying. It's a very emotional moment. He wrapped his arms around Fanny's knees when she knelt beside him. She sat him down at the kitchen table, finally told him the truth. And now Sam was not angry, not exactly. He said he felt at peace hearing this information, actually. The only person he'd ever really tried to be good for, he said, was Fanny, who he thought was his mom. But she'd lied to him his whole damn life, big lie. So now he felt like he was free of his guilt, free of any obligation he had previously felt to do the right thing for Fanny. He felt unbound, and that would really, really not be good for a lot of people. Alongside his family turmoil, Sam also discovered he was harboring some very dark fascinations. He recently started stealing pulp detective magazines from the drugstore, enjoyed looking at real photos of real dead women who had been murdered. More than enjoyed, these pictures turned him on. He even pinned a photo of a female strangulation victim to his wall. I wonder if he was also starting to think about his birth mom during this time, how she had abandoned him, truly abandoned him, and just left him laying in the dirt. Wonder if he wished she was dead. Did he think about her when he's looking at these pictures of dead, women? This one woman who had been strangled, when he's thinking about women's necks, as he wanted to put his hands around his mom's neck. November of 1956, Sam, who's now 16, and bouncing around, not going to school, sometimes home, sometimes just doing whatever, he gets arrested in Omaha, Nebraska for burglary, sent to a youth authority facility for a few months since nothing noteworthy happened while he was there that he mentioned. We'll skip ahead. Choke and stroke, back in Ohio, by early 1957. And on May 25th of that year, Sam passed by a closed dry cleaners in Mansfield late at night and was tempted by all the shiny, pristine suits hanging inside. So he wrapped his fist up in his shirt, punched through the window, and he let himself in. Put on a new suit. He was walking around town with it. He got away with it, stole it, and then a friend of his told him that no one's going to believe that was his suit. He's going to get in a lot of trouble. But Sam's friend reassured him, don't worry, you won't be arrested if you just return it. So Sam did that just 2 days later, May 27th, and his friend was, of course, wrong. You don't get to fucking bust a window of a store, go in and just, take some shit and then bring it back like, my bad. And, they're probably not just going to let you walk away for that. He's arrested, charged with breaking and entering, and he's sent to the Ohio State Reformatory now for a 17-month sentence, 17-month sentence. The reformatory being a sort of halfway point between the boys' industrial school and state prison. At the OSR, his cellmate is Wilbert Taylor, who he'd actually befriended back at the BIS. And now Wilbert told Sam that he had been raped by 4 inmates when he first entered the reformatory. So, this place worse than the last place. That would not happen to Sam, though, apparently. He was already a strong kid, right? He started boxing a couple years back. Now he's prone to punching others and punching them pretty hard. Wouldn't happen again to Wilbert either. He trained until he was strong enough to fight these other boys off. He'd also transitioned into a female identity. He was wearing some kind of homemade eyeliner now. He'd straightened his now long hair, and Wilbert was going by Betty. And Betty had beaten the ever-loving shit out of each of his 4 attackers in 4 separate fights, and then strangely punished them by forcing them to let him suck their dicks in front of witnesses.
Are you fucking kidding me? I said, are you fucking kidding me?
I know, Miles, I know. Also, get out of here. You shouldn't be listening to this kind of shit. Betty did that because he wanted those rapists to undeniably enjoy something that made them question their sexuality. To be seen by others enjoying it, having others see them come so they couldn't deny that they had enjoyed it. He wanted to mindfuck them. My God, never thought of that. That's diabolical. That would really fuck you up. If you were very homophobic, you considered yourself to be straight, but then you did stay hard. You did come when a dude sucked your dick. How do you reconcile that? Sam thought that what Betty did was fucking hilarious. Yeah, he's also glad that his old friend liked to fight. Sam liked to fight as well, as I mentioned, was already good with his fist. And now he and Betty start sparring, start helping each other get better at fighting. They'll flip over their mattresses in their cell, push them up against the wall, use them as heavy bags. Sam apparently showed real promise with boxing. He had a true talent for it, and he became one of the best fighters in the facility. Even got himself a nickname, Mad Daddy. Betty gave that to him. Once a year, the inmates and staff turned the OSR's chapel into a boxing ring for one of the biggest events of the year, and Sam, Mr. Mad Daddy, was a favorite to win the tournament amongst the betting crowd. And he did supposedly win, KO'd some dude named Bubba. While in the OSR, Sam also developed a bond with a quiet inmate named Don Draper, same name as the John Hamm character in Mad Men. And this Don was an artist, and Don agreed to teach Sam how to draw if Sam would teach him how to fight. And then fighting and drawing will be really the only 2 skills that Sam will feel proud of or care about for the remainder of his life. When Sam was released from the OSR, I guess other than stealing and hurting people, when Sam was released from the OSR at the age of 21 in early 1961, somehow that original 17-month sentence stretched into 4 fucking years for reasons Sam never explained. Guessing he got a lot of disciplinary infractions here. He's now a skilled fighter and a bit of an artist. He had dreams of pursuing a career as a prize fighter. He was a muscular, athletic kid. He liked violence, but he was back in the prison system by June of that year for stealing money from a furniture store. He had broken in through a skylight in the roof, got caught when he tried to climb back up onto the roof. Cops surrounded the building. I wasn't able to get down and away. Now he gets sentenced to 3 more years behind bars in a proper prison this time. And in this prison, young Sam kept fighting. Suppose he won the prison middleweight championship in both 1963 and 1964. Then the following year, 1965, now 24-year-old Sam is paroled. He returns home, begins training at his local YMCA in Lorraine, still hoping to somehow make it as a professional boxer. Also starts working as a pipe fitter with his father, Henry, old Papa Daddy, and he hated it. He considered a regular job its own kind of prison. That summer, he and a team of other fighters headed to Columbus, Ohio for an amateur competition where Sam gets his ass kicked in the ring for the first time. Doesn't get knocked out, but gets his lip all kind of mangled up. And on the way out of town, after grabbing some chocolate milkshakes at a burger joint, I'm sure the cold felt good on his busted up lip, he threw his boxing gloves in the trash and decided, he was never going to try and box again. The boxing dream is dead. Now Sam's lost. 4 days later, working with Papa Daddy Henry as a pipe fitter again. He walked into the U.S. Steel Medical Clinic to take care of a wart on his finger, and he met a pretty girl with a kind smile named Jackie Pellerin, who worked at the clinic as a receptionist. 2 started talking, started dating. A few months later, Sam and Jackie get married in August 1965 and move into the basement of her mother's house. And now shit starts to get really weird. Presented with the opportunity to have sex on a regular basis for the first time in his life, Sam struggles with that mightily. Choke and stroke, not good when it came to any kind of traditional thrust and come. He cares about Jackie is the problem. For some reason, not wanting to hurt her, having actual feelings for her, fucks him up inside, leaves him unable to maintain an erection long enough to ejaculate. And maybe at this point, if he'd got some therapy, some professional help, none of us would know his name today. But therapy just wasn't seen as an option, wasn't given a second, even a first thought for members of Sam's social circle back in Ohio in 1965. Instead, Sam gets angry. He's confused and upset by the fact that he can only get truly aroused at the thought of badly strangling Jackie, and so he takes off, leaves the house on their wedding night, crashes his bride's new car into a telephone pole 3 blocks from the house. His marriage was doomed right from the start. Eventually, Sam is able to have sex with Jackie, but not often, a few times, by fantasizing about choking her while they have sex. But it's too hard for him to consistently get off this way, and soon he stops even trying to have sex with her. He instead starts spending most of his time traversing the city, hitting up bars to meet women he does not care about, women whose necks draw him towards them. Not kidding. Love those fucking necks. Around December of 1965, just 4 months after he got married, Sam walks into a bar called the Pink Elephant, and there starts chatting up a barmaid with a real sexy neck named Diane. And Diane did sex work part-time. Sam went home with her thinking that she was just really into him, and then he became infuriated when she asked for money for sex, and he attacked her. He grabbed her, he slammed her head into the headboard, and then he began to strangle her. He managed to stop himself just before he'd killed her, and then he ran out of her house with a fucking boner he could have easily slammed into a door and cut off. Diane called the police. And now Sam and Jackie fled town. Too bad he actually didn't cut this guy's dick off. It'd save a lot of people a lot of hurt. The couple, poor fucking Jackie, what must she have thought, drove all the way to Miami, Florida, to see Sam's mother, Bessie Mae, who lived in the Coconut Grove neighborhood. Sam hadn't seen his biological mom since he was 4 years old. This was the first time he'd ever seen her since he had found out that she was his actual mother. She had written to him a few years prior when he was at the OSR. She'd given him her new address, told him she'd come into a bit of money, and he was welcome to come stay with her. So now here he was, with his new bride in tow. And Mama's overjoyed. She didn't try to abandon him in the mud again, not even one single time. She dragged Sam all over the all over the neighborhood, meeting all the neighbors, squealing their boys back. It's a big, emotional, joyous reunion. But then once Sam and Jackie had settled in, shit got so weird with Mama. She said that Sam and Jackie could keep living with her, but only if they worked on giving her a grandbaby. And they agreed, but after a few weeks went by, and Jackie wasn't pregnant yet. It's not very much time, by the way. Sam came home to find that his mom had drilled a peephole in the wall that separated her room from their room. Why? Well, she said she wanted to monitor their activities. She said it was her home. It was her right to drill a fucking hole in the wall if she wanted. She said she wanted to make sure that her son was fucking his wife. As in, she wanted to watch and confirm it. And that, if you don't already know, is pretty fucked up. Enough jibber jabber. Get in there and fuck your wife. Don't you dare pull out. Sammy, I'll know if you do, baby boy. Mama's watching. Mama's always being watching on you. Like, what the fuck? This won't be the most fucked up thing that will happen between Sam and his mom. A couple nights after finding out that Mama's peeping on him, that's so fucking weird. He came home late from a local bar while his wife's asleep. His mom, Mrs. Voyerpuss, is up smoking a cigarette. And she takes her son into her bed. And Sam will claim before he said he blacked out from being drunk that the last thing he remembered that night was sucking on his mother's tit as the two of them laid naked in her bed. Jesus Christ. How fucking desperate for a grandkid was this lady? Did Bessie Mae want to give birth to her own grandbaby? Like she's tired of waiting? So weird that would have actually been the case had she gotten pregnant. This is my daughter, June. Also, this is my grandbaby, June. I'm confused. I don't see another kid there. Me either, baby. Me either. No, sugar. Just one baby for Mama Peephole. Mama's little girl, Mama's little grandgirl, all rolled up into one little girl. That's fucking so creepy. Next day, Sam is feeling conflicted. Well, yeah, of course he is. Yeah, he's all jumbled up inside. He's itching for a fight. Yeah, he just fucked his mom. I mean, I'll never forget how amped up I was first time I fucked my mom. Wait, what?
Are you fucking kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me?
I know, Miles. That was too far, even for me. Anyway, now while Jackie's busy cooking some gumbo, Bessie Mae has a friend come over. Her friend comments on Jackie's gumbo. Sam upturns the scalding pot of gumbo onto Jackie. Oh, it's a big mess. Also grabs a big kitchen knife and he's enraged and he's a fucking mental patient. He plunges the blunt end of the knife into his mom's friend's stomach repeatedly, and she thinks she's being stabbed and screams and is terrified, and she runs out threatening to call the police. Sam thinks it's funny. No one else thinks it's funny. Sam orders Jackie to pack their things now, and they take off as Bessie Mae is crying in the doorway. Florida was not quite what Sam had hoped it would be. Now he and Jackie head back to Ohio to stay with Jackie's aunt in Cleveland. Upon his arrival, Sam gets arrested, charged with assaulting Diane, the bartender. The charges will be dismissed due to lack of evidence. However, while Sam is being held in jail, while the police are trying to get the charges against him to stick, Jackie's aunt convinces her, smart lady, to divorce Sam and helps her to file the paperwork. Now Sam doesn't have a place to stay, and he takes his show on the road. He decides he doesn't need anybody, doesn't need to put down roots anywhere. For the rest of his very long life, he will bounce around the country from place to place, giving in to his dark urges and feeling happier than he had ever felt before. Within weeks, by March of 1966, he was in Baltimore, Maryland. Got stuck in Baltimore when after he had ran a red light, a van T-boned his car. Not hurt, uninterested, and waiting for the cops to come to the scene of an accident he was at fault for. He literally just left his car in the middle of the intersection. Might have stole it anyway. And he just started walking towards the nearest Greyhound station. It's late, and on the way, he's passing by a liquor store that's still open. He walks in, and impulsively, he tries to rob the place. Something he would do all the time. Except this time, he didn't have a gun. He just put his hand in his pocket, pretended as if he had a gun, and yelled at the old man behind the counter, "Give me all your money." Unfortunately for Sam, that dude did have a gun. He pulled out a loaded .38, and he wasn't fucking playing. He fired 5 times as Sam turned, tried to run, shot Sam each and every time. Sam took a bullet in his side, through both arms, and 2 more bullets in his back. Within the hour, he was handcuffed to a hospital bed and recovering from his wounds. Within weeks, he would be found guilty of attempted armed robbery, even though he didn't have a gun, and was sentenced to 4 years in prison. And now back inside, now he's a model prisoner. He's not fucking around this time. He wants to get out. He drew pictures, painted portraits for inmates and guards alike, wrote letters to family back in Ohio, and after 2 years with no disciplinary problems on his record, he gets paroled. And then strangely, in 1968, he returns to Mama. Mama Peephole. Not Mama Fanny. Maybe he wanted to try out the other tit. I don't know what was going on here. Back down to Florida he goes. He stays in the same bedroom with the same hole in the wall. Supposedly doesn't fuck his mom again, not even one time. And he gets a job as a gravedigger, which sounds about right. That job doesn't pay much, though, and soon he leaves it for a new job as a garbage man, working for the Dade County Sanitation Department. Also starts dating a waitress named Yvonne, who his mom had introduced him to. This is also messed up. I wonder if his mom was like, "Oh, you should date him. He's quite the lover." Wink, vomit, step in front of bus. Betsy Mae was still going on about wanting a grandchild. And I guess she wasn't as excited to try and have it herself. She wanted him to have her baby boy to have it with somebody else. Sam still has no interest, though, in normal, consensual, nonviolent sex. So things are not going to work out with Yvonne. Sam's first confirmed murder will occur about 2 years later, January 1st, 1971. He's now 30 years old. His victim is 33-year-old Mary Jo Brosley. Sam met her at a bar at Miami Beach, New Year's Eve. Mary Jo was a married mother of 2, including a 7-year-old son who had disappeared from, not the son, but her. She had disappeared from Palmer, Massachusetts the summer before on June 12th. She had a very serious drinking problem. Hardcore alcoholic. And when her family confronted her about it, rather than dealing with it, she ran. She said she was going to go stay with family in Boston when she ran, but she never made it there. 50 years later, her sister will reveal she was already suffering from cirrhosis of the liver when she left and anorexia. She said that Mary Jo, quote, would take rides with anyone who would provide her with alcohol. Damn. When she left in June, no one in her family would ever see her alive again. She was reported missing by her family that July, and I don't know much more about her than that, sadly. When Sam met her, he said she was wearing a sundress and a necklace that drew his eyes towards her slender throat, towards that neck he loved. He said that Mary told him she had left behind her children in Massachusetts and that she was estranged from her family because of confrontations over her drinking. And I do wonder if her telling him that she had abandoned her children set something off in him. I wonder if it reminded him of his own mother abandoning him. His own mother, who was also, I don't think I mentioned this, a very heavy drinker, whose own liver was already having problems. Sam told the police many years later that he talked her into driving with him away from the bar when it closed, and he ended up driving her out into the Everglades. He was incredibly aroused. They started fooling around. He saw the moonlight shining on the necklace around her throat, and he said, I had desires, strong desires, to choke her. I just went out of control, I guess. After strangling her while they had sex, after probably masturbating over her body, as he loved to do, he quickly buried her body in the swamp. Mary's body would be found about 6 months later, June 24th, 1971, when a man and his teenage son were out hunting, found her remains in a shallow grave. Decomposition had already broken down any physical signs of strangulation. The medical examiner incorrectly estimated she was between 50 and 60 years old, had been buried for 2 months. Now her body remained unidentified for decades. In mid-2016, Miami-Dade Medical Examiner's Office investigator Brittany McLaurin decided to review the case, and she researched NamUs, a national database for women with specific physical abnormalities. The Jane Doe she was trying to identify was petite, missing part of her left pinky finger, and had a surgically repaired hip. And Mary's name stood out to her in the database. Mary's family confirmed that she accidentally cut off a part of her pinky and that she had a hip replacement. Man, she was young for that. And that she disappeared from Massachusetts in 1970. A dentist compared the Jane Doe's teeth to a photo of Mary. It appeared to be an exact match. Her body was later officially identified in June of 2017, and that still did not answer the question of who killed her. That'll be answered in October of 2018 when Little confesses. And she would be one of 9 women Sam later recalled killing in either 1971 or in 1971 or 1972. He could not always remember the exact date. Not going to mention every possible murder as they come up in this timeline, by the way. He confessed to 93 of them, and we don't know the names for many of them or any of the details, really, surrounding their deaths, or very little kind of repetitive details. Law enforcement has confirmed 62 of these, murders, or, 62 of the 33 confessed murders. There are a few others that are 99% confirmed as being victims of Sam Little. Author Gillian Lauren wrote out a list of 98 women, including the 93 that Sam had confessed to killing, plus another 4 women he had assaulted and tried to kill, plus another woman linked to Little that he did not confess to killing, but investigators believe he must have forgotten about. And then I added one more woman linked to Little after Gillian's book was published, another woman whose death must have just slipped his mind, bringing up the total to 99 women. For most of these murders, as I just referenced, we have almost no details, which is why I will not mention them in the timeline. Sam couldn't even remember exactly when he killed them or who they were, but I also don't want to just not acknowledge them in any way that doesn't feel right. So right now, it's just crazy to see this totality. I'm going to list off all 99 of his known and alleged victims. I'll just say anonymous for the women whose bodies still have not been identified. And again, the totality of this is fucking insane. These are not just names and dates. These are people who had hopes and dreams, who laughed with friends, who were once goofy little kids, playing, smiling out in the sun, running around in the grass, once being held in their mother's arms. Many of them had children of their own when they died. And also, in every case, we know at least some details about their lives had taken a dark turn before they met Sam. The road they walked already so hard, so full of wolves who preyed on them. They'd already been abused, treated like nothing more than somebody else's plaything, already been insulted, degraded, defiled. They were already the less alive before Sam Little turned them into the less dead. Mary Jo Brosley is the first, whose death we just went over. Karen O'Donoghue, also 1971, unknown, perhaps Emily in the 1970s. Unknown, 1970 or 71. Unknown, perhaps Linda, 1971. Another unknown, 1971. Unknown, perhaps Sarah, maybe Donna, 1971. Unknown, perhaps Marianne in 71 or 72. Another unknown in 71 or 72, and unknown in 72. Sarah Brown in 73. Agatha White Buffalo. We'll meet her later. 1973. Linda Belcher, 74. 3 unknowns in 74. Martha Cunningham, 1975. Miriam Angela Chapman, 1976. Pamela K. Smith, 76. Unknown, perhaps named Joe, 1976 to 1979. Another unknown between 76 and 79. Another unknown between 76 and 79, or maybe 1993. Sam all kinds of mixed up when he snuffed out that innocent life. Marianne Jenkins at 77, Dorothy Gibson, 77, Leanne Helms, 77, Clara Birdlong, 77. 2 unknowns in 77. Another unknown in either 77 or 78. Another unknown between 77 and 82. Julia Critchfield, 1978. Evelyn Weston, 78. Carlene Jones, 78. Brenda Alexander, 79. Valerie Boyd, 1980. Marianne Porter, 1980. Hilda Nelson, 1980. Unknown, between 80 and 84. Linda Sue Boards, 81. Patricia Parker, 81. Annie Lee, went by Anna Stewart, 81. Leela McLean, 81. Unknown, 81. Fredonia Smith, 82. Rosie Hill, in 82. Dorothy Richards, Patricia Ann Mount, Melinda Lepre, all in 1982. 3 more unknowns in 1982. Willie Mae Bivens in 84. Mary Jo Payton, Hannah Mae Bonner, Ida Mae Campbell, Frances Campbell, Lori Carriage Barros, Tanya Jackson, also in 84, including 6 separate unknown women in 84. or not including, but additionally, 6 separate unknown women in 84, Sonia Colette Austin in 87, Carol Alford in 87, 7 additional unknown women in 87, an unknown woman between 88 and 96, Audrey Nelson in 89, Guadalupe Apodaca, 1989, Zena Marie Jones, 1990, Alice Denise Duval in 91, Rose Evans in 91, Roberta Tanderich, 91, an unknown woman in either 91 or 92, Alice Denise Tina Taylor and Tracy Lynn Johnson, both in 1992, another unknown woman in 92, 3 more unknown women between 92 and 93, Ruby Lane, Bobby Ann Fields Wilson in 93, another unknown woman in 93, Denise Christie Brothers and Jolanda Jones in 1994, Melissa Thomas, 96, Daisy McGuire, 96, T Money, 96, Unknown, 96, Sheila, 96, Priscilla Baxter Jones in 97, and finally, Nancy Carol Stevens in 2005. Big leap there for the end. Holy shit, that is so many souls. Yikes, rest in peace. A few months after getting a taste for murder, Sam Little decided to leave Florida again. And by the way, before I move past it, just sticking in my head right now, but that big gap at the end, I mean, he would get weird about certain killings and that they had evidence that he committed and be like, yes, I killed all these other women, but definitely not those. And there were women he definitely killed. So I do wonder if, like, for some reason he just felt ashamed or for whatever reason didn't want to mention some additional murders, but I bet it was an even bigger list than that. Okay, a few months after getting a taste for murder, Sam Little decided to leave Florida again. He'd met a new girl, Lucy Madero, a young Puerto Rican woman he wanted to introduce to some of his family in Ohio after he had considered choking and stroking her, but then he changed his mind. They'd met at a bar, and while playing pool, she had tried to pick his pocket, and he had backhanded her to the floor, told her that if she's going to steal, she better steal for him, not from him, and apparently she apologized, agreed, acted real subservient, and that turned him on, how quickly she bent to his will. He left his mom, Bessie May, whose eyes were getting yellow from her liver starting to shut down from too many years of too many drinks, and he and Lucy drove to Lorain, Ohio to meet Fanny, his other mom, his grandma. And after crashing at Fanny's for a few days, Sam stole some cash out of her nightstand, as one does with their grandmother, and he and Lucy drove to Cleveland. Then on May 28th, 1971, they both get arrested when Sam robbed a gas station with Lucy's gun in Westlake, Ohio. Another armed robbery charge. And while Lucy is being held awaiting trial, she meets a woman twice her age. They become cellmates. A woman named Aurelia Dorsey, who went by Jean. A woman with a long rap sheet of her own that included mostly petty theft, but also some real serious crimes like attempted murder. And Sam will meet her as well. He won't see her, but he can hear her. He's being held in the cell directly beneath Lucy and Jean's cell on the floor below. 6 months later, Lucy and Jean get released. Around the same time. And then Jean comes to visit Sam in jail, and she warns him that Lucy is going to testify against him in his upcoming trial. And Lucy Madero would testify against Samuel in March of 1972, but thanks to Jean's warning, Sam's attorney was ready for that. They had dug into Lucy's background, destroyed her character in court, and Sam got acquitted. Lucy's gone in the wind by the time Sam gets out, but Jean, she stuck around. And despite her being 27 years older than Sam, and in his words, no beauty, the pair would travel together and be together often. Kind of an odd Bonnie and Clyde type couple. Sam will even be able to ejaculate while having sex with her without wanting to strangle her to death. Occasionally. Jean will teach Sam everything she knows about fencing stolen goods. They'll travel around the country together, stealing all sorts of shit, occasionally working odd jobs, and in Samuel's case, murdering quite a few more people. He often went out alone at night while she slept to search for vulnerable women so he could find a release for his dark urges. Never said, to my knowledge, if she knew or cared about his choking and stroking ways.
I stroke it to the east, and I stroke it to the west, and I stroke it to the woman that I love the best. I be stroking.
I had to share that with you. Ever since I first said stroking, I've been thinking about that weird Clarence Carter song. Sometimes Sam or Jean or both of them would end up incarcerated, and that would lead to them, of course, being separated for a little while. But they'd always reconnect eventually. These two would remain together, crossing paths frequently, traveling often, and all the way until Jean dies in either 87 or 88. Sources vary. When Jean died of a brain hemorrhage in Los Angeles. So if I don't mention her a lot going forward, know that she's probably hanging around somewhere in the background. Maybe in jail or a prison cell somewhere, maybe waiting for Sam to return to their cheap motel room when he's done choking and stroking, all the way until around 1997 or 1998. Let's return to Florida now, where Sam returned in 1972. I'm not going to bother always mention if he drove, took a bus, by the way, how he got there. Too many details would bog the story down. Not going to mention every brush with the law he had either. By 1975, Sam will have been arrested over 25 times in 11 different states already. In March of 1972, Sam kills one of the victims we know of by name today in Miami, Mary Ann. I was listed earlier as like unknown or Mary Ann. We're pretty sure this is Mary Ann. Sam said he met Mary Ann at a bar known as the Pool Palace near 17th Avenue. He would find out later that she was transgender and said that didn't bother him. Still thought she was beautiful. She had a beautiful, slender neck he really wanted to wrap his hands around. Sam described Mary Ann as 18 to 19 years old, black between 5'6" and 5'7", and approximately 135 or 140 pounds. They had fun sharing some drinks, danced, but she wouldn't leave with him, not that night. A few days later, though, they met again at a bar in Overtown, where Little now offered to drive her out to someplace more private. Mary Ann agreed, but she wanted to stop by her place first, and they did. Mary Ann lived with several roommates in an apartment somewhere between Brownsville and Liberty City. There, she changed clothes. Then they returned to Little's car, a gold four-door Pontiac Le Mans at the time. And Little now drove Mary Ann north on Highway 27, and then he pulled over, killed her on a driveway, possibly near a sugarcane field. As he strangled her, he took his erection out of his pants, jerked off, finishing right as he died. So fucked up. The choking somebody to death is really what did it for him. Pretty sure that's a kink we can all righteously shame. After he was finished, she was dead. He drove further down Highway 27 into the Everglades, eventually turning down a dirt road that led to a river or a swamp. He couldn't remember exactly what kind of body of water it was. Maybe in the darkness he couldn't tell, or I don't know, just didn't care. Sam dragged Mary Ann's body approximately 200 yards out into the thick, shallow, muddy water and submerged it. He doubted her body was ever found. The year after killing Mary Ann in Florida and after killing 3 other women elsewhere, Sam found himself in Nebraska in the fall of 1973. Also in Nebraska, a 34-year-old woman named Agatha White Buffalo. She'd taken a bus from where she lived on South Dakota's Rosebud Indian Reservation down to Omaha for a biopsy at her doctor's request. She'd been having a bit of trouble breathing, had been feeling some pain in her chest, and then something came up, something scary, a cloudy spot on her lung in an x-ray. She went by Aggie, and Aggie was a diminutive woman, barely 5 feet tall. She was said to be exceptionally pretty, but she'd also had a real hard life. So many fucking problems, long before Sam ever showed up. She was a housewife who used to iron her husband's police blues every day before he was sent into work. That was before he went to prison. Sources don't say what he did, at least no source I totally trust does. One source referenced he may have killed somebody, but he wasn't in prison that long, so it doesn't make sense to me, but it's possible. She once washed her 8 children's clothes every day by hand, hanging them out to dry on a clothesline with the help of her oldest daughters. But now, after she had failed to land a job that could provide for everybody, now her kids were scattered, living with relatives or in foster care. She's having health problems. Her husband's locked up. She had slept a whole 6-hour bus ride from the Rosebud Reservation to the Greyhound Station in the center of Omaha. Right? Her life was fucking exhausting. Of course, she's tired. She had then walked 3 miles in the cold to the house of a woman named Denise, who she did not know. It's a friend of a friend. She fell asleep after she found the key Denise had hid for her, let herself inside, woke up when Denise's roommate came home, a young woman named Phyllis. Phyllis poured her a drink. They talked for a little while, and then soon she crashed for the night on the couch after Phyllis had invited her to have drinks the following night after her doctor's appointment with Phyllis and Denise. Next night, she goes out with Phyllis and Denise to a place where those girls were regulars called the Happy Bar. Aggie was supposed to take the bus back home the following morning. She has a few drinks. She takes some painkillers, for that ache in her chest. Now she's feeling pretty good, having more fun, I imagine, than she'd had in a long, long time. Then a guy with a big smile approaches her, buys her a drink, starts flirting with her, Sam Little. Soon he's asking her to come with him back to his place. He said he had a better liquor back home when it was free. Aggie was broke, probably wasn't looking forward to another night on Denise's couch, followed by a long 3-mile walk back to the bus station. And again, her life, had been shit lately. Was still going to be shit when she made it back home. She wanted her fun night to continue. And so she left with Sam and hopped into the T-Bird he was now driving. And no one she knew ever saw her alive again. Sam would hit her, strangle her, ejaculate on her, and then hide her body in an oil drum when he was done with it. Aggie's body was found November 16th, 1973, inside a barrel at the Sturgis Hide Company in South Omaha. 27-year-old man Martin Hernandez was moving barrels behind the plant when he found her body, and police later found some of her clothing nearby. County coroner ruled she had been strangled but hadn't been sexually assaulted, and no one would know who killed her for the next about 45 years. Her daughter, Joyce Brissett, who was 62 years old when she finally found out what the fuck happened to her mom, said her mom's death nearly shattered her family. It was mayhem for us, she said. She said that her dad, Patrick Henry White Buffalo, once he got out of prison following his wife's death, began drinking constantly, was unable to ever fully care for his children again. She said that Aggie's death broke him. He was never the same. Brissett, who today still lives in St. Francis, South Dakota, not far from her childhood home, added that her family never fully healed from her mom's death. She was just a good mother, she said. She was very kind. She was gentle-hearted. She was just a nice person. Let's jump ahead to 1975 now, after Sam has killed another 4 women. And now he's also killed Martha Cunningham of Knoxville, Tennessee. Cunningham's body found by a pair of hunters in Knox County on the afternoon of January 18th, 1975, off of Oglesby Road. She was bruised, naked from the waist down. Her pantyhose and girdle were bunched down around her knees. Her purse, some of her jewelry, missing. Her body appeared to have been dragged into the woods, dumped behind a pine tree. Despite all that, detectives attributed Cunningham's death to natural causes within a day of the discovery. What the fuck? People definitely have attributed this online to some racism here. It was a black woman, body found in the woods, and they think that some white cops just didn't feel like doing any fucking paperwork. The medical examiner's investigative report listed the probable cause of death as unknown. Sam's preferred method of killing was to sucker punch victims, then strangle them, and without any obvious signs of trauma such as a stabbing or gunshot wound, some of these deaths, not properly investigated, were attributed to, mistakenly to drug overdoses, accidents, natural causes, according to the FBI. Seems pretty fucked up. The way she's found, it looks natural. Oh, yeah. Young lady out in the woods, fucking half naked, her pantyhose bunched down around her knees. Yeah, it's probably just had a heart attack or something. Cunningham was a talented singer, pianist who had grown up performing with her parents and her 6 younger siblings in a gospel group known as the Happy Home Jubilee Singers. The family toured regionally, performing at churches, tent revivals, on the radio. They appeared on Cass Walker's Farm and Home Hour television show. And in 1982, they would reunite for a performance at the Knoxville World's Fair with Cunningham's daughter, Mary Lucille Neal, singing her late mother's part. Decades later, Sam would remember not only her name, but he would be able to describe her appearance fairly accurately as a short, light-skinned black woman who wore glasses. He guessed her age to be 29 or 30. She was 34, but looked young for her age. He said she suffered from seizures, and the medical examiner's report and Cunningham's sister would confirm, yes, she was epileptic and took medication to help control seizures. In his confession to authorities in Texas, Little described taking Martha to eat at a restaurant. He said he took her back home late that night in the rain, but an older woman she lived with would not let her in. Not sure what's going on there. Little said he then drove his victim into the hills around Knoxville, about halfway out of town, and parked. He didn't say where. But he remembered his car briefly became stuck in a ditch. In the car, Little said he tried to kiss her, put his hand on her neck, but she wasn't having it. She pushed him away. Now he's pissed. He attacks. They struggle. He grabs at her underwear, pulls it down around her knees as he tries to pin her down. She then suffered a seizure, and she died while he strangled her with his hands, while he also, it was like one hand on her throat, while his other hand is jerking himself off. Little had spent around 3 months in Knoxville before her murder, and he took off shortly after he killed her. He will claim she was the second woman he had killed while he was in Knoxville for that stretch. He'll confess that 6 to 8 weeks earlier, he had killed a woman he described as a chubby black woman in her late 20s to early 30s, approximately 5 foot 6 inches tall, 120 to 130 pounds. That doesn't fucking sound chubby. That's a weird definition of chubby. Working as a sex worker. Claimed he picked up the woman in the vicinity of Magnolia Avenue, possibly near the former Circle Inn Tavern, that he strangled her, then dropped her body off a few blocks away in an overgrown gully. And her body was never found. Following year, Sam will get caught for almost killing Pamela K. Smith, one of the few women he had his sights on who managed to get away. On September 11th, 1976, Sam was arrested in Sunset Hills, Missouri for the rape, sodomy, assault, and robbery of Pamela, who had escaped from his car and ran to a stranger's doorstep for help. When that stranger saved her life, Pamela was nearly naked, wearing no clothes from the waist down. Her face and throat were bruised, her hands still bound with cloth and an electrical cord. Sam had beaten, strangled, bitten, and raped her. Pamela told officers that Sam had choked her from behind with the electrical cord, forced her into his car, beat her unconscious, and then driven her to Sunset Hills where he raped her. Officers found Little, then 36, still seated in his car near the home where Smith sought refuge, with her jewelry and clothing still inside the vehicle. Little denied raping Smith, but told officers, quote, "I only beat her." Who the fuck is this guy? Who says that to the police? Despite being arrested for rape, sodomy, assault with great bodily injury, did I already say robbery? No, I didn't. He was arrested for rape, sodomy, assault with great bodily injury, and robbery. Despite all that, Sam would be allowed to plead to nothing more than assault with attempt to ravish, and he would serve just 3 months in prison. Detectives who reviewed this case decades later believe that Sam was offered this chance to plead to a lesser charge because of the victim's lifestyle. She was seen as one of the less alive. The case file of hers refers to Smith as a heroin addict who often failed to appear in court and therefore would not be a reliable witness. Now let's jump ahead 17 possible murders, holy shit, over just a 4-year period of time, and learn about another woman who, while savagely attacked, at least escaped with her life. On July 31st, 1980, Sam recently turned 40 years old, now assaulted 26-year-old Hilda Nelson in Pascagoula, Mississippi. When Sam approached Hilda that night, he said he remembered her from seeing her before along the shipyard, which was a common area for sex workers at that time. But Hilda was sure she had never seen him before. Hilda told Sam she was looking for a date. They agreed on a $50 price for sex. Sam then took her to a bar, bought her a beer, and then they went to her apartment nearby. And as soon as Hilda closed the door, Sam punched her in the back of the head. He supposed he would punch a lot of his victims before he strangled them, or he'd punch them to stun them. And then he grabbed her and choked her until she lost consciousness while he, of course, beat off. When she woke up, she was on the bed. Sam was holding her down, choking her again, also hitting her in the face. And she lost consciousness again. When she woke up the next time, now she's naked in the fucking bathtub, which is full of water. And Sam had tied one of her scarves around her neck and was using it to pull her head under the water. The fuck? When Hilda tried to fight back, Sam punched her in the face again repeatedly. Thankfully, Hilda's friend Dolores Hester knocked on the window to check on her, and that saved her life. Sam answered that she was, quote, taking care of business when Dolores called out, but Dolores would not leave. She started making a bunch of noise. Sam fled, and she called 911. When Hilda woke up next, she was at the hospital. She couldn't speak because of injuries to her neck and chest, had severe bruising on her face, neck, and chest. She spent 3 days in the hospital recovering. Her mom didn't know that she was doing sex work, and Hilda was ashamed to tell her, so she claimed this was just a case of breaking and entering, did not mention the sexual assault. She didn't give the police details regarding her attacker initially and informed them that he had told her his name and that they had drank at the bar together. She didn't think the police would do anything anyway. Word around town was they didn't give two shits about sex workers, especially black sex workers. Hilda will file a detailed formal report later, though, when detectives question her about the murder of a white woman named Melinda Lepre, and we'll discuss Lepre's case a bit further down in the timeline. For right now, let's jump ahead a year and a half to 1981, skipping over 4 more murders. Sam's back in Mississippi, back in Pascagoula, and on November 19th, he drove up to a 19-year-old Leila McLean and asked, "Do you date?" Leila said yes, told him she charged $50 for sex. Leila wanted to go to a motel around the corner where she had a room, but Sam insisted on going to a different motel. Leila noticed that they drove past the designated hotel, asked him to, she asked him to turn around, designated motel, excuse me. She asked him to turn around, but Sam said, "I don't need to turn around for what I want to do to you." It's fucking terrifying. He then punched her in the head, stopped driving, continued punching and choking her for a little bit. Leila fought back like a banshee. She scratched, kicked, she bit him. She managed to escape from the car. Managed to escape a few times, but each time Sam would be able to catch her and then drag her back into the car. A young boy then, riding his bike, passed by, asked Leila if she needed help, but she couldn't speak because Sam was choking her, and Sam told the boy, "She's drunk, she's my old lady." And the boy took off on his bike. Leila, luckily not done fighting. She eventually does manage to climb through a window in the back of the car, makes it out, runs out into traffic where someone picks her up this time and takes her to the hospital. But the police never bothered to even come to the hospital to take her statement, and she never went to them. She would later say regarding the police, quote, "They don't care nothing about a black prostitute in Pascagoula, Mississippi." Following year, the Pascagoula police will finally talk to her, take her to the station for questioning. After Sam strikes again in the area, she will identify Samuel Little as an attacker, or her attacker, in a photo lineup this time. But still, he's not arrested, not yet. Now let's jump past 5 more murders in various states when Sam circles back through Pascagoula yet again. October 4th, 1982, the skeletal remains of 22-year-old Melinda Rose Lepre are found by a groundskeeper in the Gaucher Family Cemetery in Pascagoula. Melinda's boyfriend had reported her missing a month prior. Because her body was already so badly decomposed, no physical evidence could be recovered. However, her misarticulated hyoid bone and fractured cartilage strongly indicated strangulation. A fellow sex worker said on the night she disappeared, she had gotten into a brown Pinto station wagon with the man who matched Sam Little's description. And now that Sam has killed a white sex worker, authorities start seriously looking into who this Sam Little character is. And the very next month, Sam's arrested for shoplifting in Pascagoula, November 24th, 1982. Police find out he matched the suspect description in the Melinda Lepre case. Witnesses identified him in a photo lineup as the man who drove off with her outside of the King William Hotel. Now Sam is charged with murder. Authorities then finally reached out to both Hilda Nelson and Leila McLean, who described their harrowing encounters with Sam Little that you just heard. A grand jury is called to investigate the evidence, and both Hilda and Leila show up to court, even though they both had to walk to court, even though they were both terrified of Sam. And then when Hilda saw him in court, she's so scared, she urinates on herself and is released from testifying, and then Leila leaves with her because, in her words, I felt like they wasn't going to do nothing, no way. And now, sadly, the murder charge is dismissed due to a lack of physical evidence and the grand jury never hearing the survivors' testimonies. Fucking damn it. Also, the DA's office doesn't think the testimony of those two sex workers would have been enough for an indictment anyway, even if they had stayed. Right? The testimony of the less alive, sadly seen by many as holding very little weight. Sam was held in custody for 6 months in hopes of building a stronger case against him. Fortunately, during that time, Mississippi authorities saw a bulletin from the police in Gainesville, Florida, seeking information on the murder of Patricia Mount. On September 12, 1982, the nude, bruised, strangled body of Patricia, 26-year-old white woman, was found in a field in Alachua County, Florida. Eyewitnesses later identified Sam Little as the man last seen leaving Willie Mae's Beer Tavern in Gainesville with her in his brown Pinto station wagon with wood paneling. Pascagoula authorities reached out. Detectives traveled west to talk to Sam. He denied ever seeing Patricia, said he was in Mississippi at the time of the murder. However, investigators had found hair samples on Patricia's clothing that had the same characteristics as hairs from Sam's head, possible physical evidence tying him to the crime. And Sam Little is charged with Patricia's murder, extradited July 19, 1983, and his trial would start in January of 1984. At trial, Sam will change his story and admit, yeah, he did see Patricia. He was dancing with her on the night of the murder. His defense argued that, the hair could have been transferred during that physical contact. And after a 2-day trial, Sam is acquitted. Fucking gets away again. Decades later, he will return to Florida and admit he did it. He'll say, I noticed her neck was pretty. That's what I was looking at. I got excited when I seen her throat. And who was with him in both Mississippi and Florida? Aurelia Jean Dorsey, his common-law wife, essentially. They must have had some kind of understanding. They're still bouncing around the country together, still stealing shit, fencing it, shoplifting to pay for their travels, and to pay for Sam's sex worker fixation. This close call does nothing to decrease Sam's violent urges. In fact, some would argue they only grew stronger. He continued killing his way across the South and the Midwest, murders he would confess to years later, and by late 1984, he had made it to Southern California. On September 26, 1984, 22-year-old sex worker Lori Barros was walking to a friend's apartment in San Diego when Sam approached her from behind, grabbed her in a chokehold, and dragged her into his car. Sam told her he had just purchased $150 worth of cocaine, and goddammit, they were going to party. He drove the terrified woman to a deserted lot at the end of a gravel road near the freeway, pulled Lori into the backseat of the car, forcibly kissed her. She pushed him away. This makes Sam real mad, starts to punch her, and then he starts to choke her. Lori begged Sam not to hurt her, said she would cooperate if he raped her. Sam responded that he didn't want to rape her, said he loved her. He now pulled off Lori's nylon stockings, underwear, and shoes, used the stockings to tie her hands behind her back, and then he choked her until she had lost consciousness. When she woke up, Lori again asked him not to hurt her and said she would cooperate if he let her live. Sam ignored her, asked her to swallow, said he liked the feeling of her swallowing. This is not a sexual in the sense that like his penis is nowhere near her mouth. He said when he had his hands around a woman's neck, he liked the feel of them swallowing. What the fuck? Lori later testified, it became a game. Right before I would go unconscious, I'm sure he was able to see my eyes roll back into my head because I'd feel it. He'd lift up just enough pressure so I would not go unconscious, ask me to swallow again, press down harder so I would, almost go unconscious again. And it just kind of kept going until I completely went out. I blacked out. Lori woke up next. She tried to scream, but she couldn't. Sam pulled her against his body, rubbed his penis against her, but he couldn't maintain an erection, and he became angry again, so he choked Lori until she lost consciousness again. She next remembered being pushed out of the car, tossed onto a pile of trash. Sam then got on top of her. With his knees on her chest, he choked her until she blacked out yet again. She woke up to find her bra lifted up above her breasts. She laid there for about 30 minutes, pretending to be dead because she was afraid Sam was going to come back. Once she felt safe enough to move, she walked to a payphone, called a friend. That friend came and grabbed her, took her to the hospital where she received treatment for her injuries. Lori would testify later. I really knew this wasn't about rape. It wasn't about assault. It was about death, power, and control, whether or not I was going to live. A month after the attack on Lori, on October 25th, 1984, San Diego police officers, Louis Tamani, and Wayne Spees, were on their regular patrol near an abandoned lot that was a crime hotspot. They drove down a dirt road. They found a vehicle to match the description of the car in the Lori Barrows case. And then when they turned on their lights, a man exited the vehicle. And Tamani identified him as the man Lori had described. Sam was zipping up his pants, seemed nervous. He repeatedly looked back and forth between the officers and his car. Then when the officers asked him to walk over, he said, "It's nothing. It's just my wife. We're fighting." When Sam got closer, the officers could see bloody scratches on his neck. Officer Tamani looked into the car, saw a naked woman in the back seat, a woman who would be identified as Tanya Jackson. Tanya's torso and head were on the floorboard between the two front seats. Her lips and mouth were bloody. Clearly, she had just been beaten. Her eyes were rolled into the back of her head. She was gasping for air. When Tanya was able to speak, she said that Sam had raped her, and then she started sobbing, was no longer able to communicate clearly. Another officer would attempt to interview Tanya at the hospital, but she was now experiencing severe shock, still would not be able to speak coherently. Sam was also taken to the hospital for an exam, and on the way there, that fucking piece of shit actually said, quote, "That bitch didn't give me my money's worth. She's going to give it to me, or else." Fucking telling that to the cops. Said he met Tanya at a bar downtown. She agreed to perform a sexual act for $20. He said that she had given him directions to the spot where they were found, that they got into the back of the vehicle, and Tanya, quote, started playing with it. Sam said he wanted, quote, more, but Tanya refused, and then he told her that she wasn't going anywhere until they had sex. And Sam said, quote, "I told her I wanted more, but she refused. I told her she wasn't going anywhere until I got my pussy. I grabbed her in self-defense. She deserved it. She tried to cheat me." What the fuck? I grabbed her in self-defense because she didn't want to fuck him, not even for money? And then he said she deserved it? In a perfect world, he says all of that on tape so that, people can see it later and see why he was killed. He says all that on tape, and then an officer is allowed to shoot him in the head immediately. And then that officer is given a fucking medal and a promotion. Sam denied raping Tanya, but admitted he kicked her, and he repeatedly asked the officers questions like, "How's the bitch? Is she going to make it?" Again, bullet to the head, medal, promotion. Sam was charged with rape, assault with great bodily injury, and sexual battery. And quickly, San Diego police linked the Tanya Jackson case to the Lori Barrows case. Sam had driven both women to the same remote spot to attack them. Lori then identified Sam in a lineup where she asked each man to say, "Swallow for me. I love it when you swallow." She later admitted she knew it was Sam immediately. She just wanted to hear that motherfucker say that. I like Lori. Lori and Tanya's cases were then tried together with added charges of false imprisonment, assault with great bodily injury, and sexual battery, and somehow the jury deadlocks. And then in a fucking plea deal, Sam pleads guilty to 2 counts of assault with great bodily injury and 1 count of false imprisonment. And after all that evil shit, despite a criminal record about a mile long already at this point, that the police were, I guess, kind of unaware of, since it's 1984 and computer databases not quite as comprehensive as they are now, he's sentenced just 4 years in prison, which he won't serve. While incarcerated, he's forced to submit a DNA sample, luckily, which will be uploaded to the FBI's national database. And while that won't bite him in the ass quite yet, because it's 1984, this will become critical evidence against him years later. After serving just 18 months for savagely beating 2 sex workers, Sam is paroled February 1st, 1987. Fucking 18 months. Clearly those women truly seen as less alive. That's fucking insane. Sam realized, I know I've bitched about it a million times on the show, but it still makes me so angry that sexually violent crimes are just kind of like, in this country. And in so many countries, let's give him a year. Yeah, I probably won't do it again, even though literally all the fucking stats say, yeah, I will. Sam relocated to Los Angeles once he was released and sadly kept living. As we've seen in many past Timesuck episodes, L.A. experienced a scary high homicide rate in the 80s, influenced in part by the crack cocaine epidemic, a lot of gang activity. Also, Sam just one of many serial killers taking advantage of this environment and targeting vulnerable women in the city, the less alive. There were several active serial killers in the late 80s, combined with all the other homicides and some police corruption for sure. That all made it extremely difficult for the good detectives to solve cases. Right? Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, well, thankfully he'd been apprehended in 1985. Randy the Scorecard Killer Kraft caught in 83. But the very active Lonnie the Grim Sleeper Franklin, right, he's still killing. The Southside Slayer, Chester Turner, still active, and there were several others. Also around that time, Sam's longtime partner Aurelia Jean Dorsey dies at the age of 74 of that brain hemorrhage. And now Sam might be more unhinged than ever. 5 months after Sammy is released, July 13th, 1987, the body of 41-year-old Carol Linda Alford, found in an alley behind a house on East 27th Street in Los Angeles. Carol naked from the waist down, her shirt pulled up over her bra, missing her shoes and one sock. There are drag marks near her feet, which indicated she was killed elsewhere, then dumped at that location. Her daughter will identify her body, which is always fucking terrible. Carol's cause of death was asphyxia, as is the result of manual strangulation. She said she had bruises near her jaw, hemorrhages around her eyes, scratches on her neck that came from fingernails. There was also hemorrhaging under her scalp, consistent with the blow to the head as if she had been punched, for example. Also hemorrhaging to her voice box and hyoid bone. Carol's remains would be very similar to the remains of so many of Sam's other victims. She had cocaine in her blood. She'd been strangled. She had semen on her clothing, but had not been raped. 2 years later, after Sam possibly killed 8 unidentified other women whose remains were never found, August 14th, 1989, the body of 35-year-old Audrey Nelson found in a dumpster behind a Chinese restaurant on East 7th Street in L.A. She's curled up in a fetal position on her left side, nude from the waist down, sweatshirt pulled up over her shoulders, revealing dirt, drag marks on her back. Her cause of death, strangulation. Front of her neck bruised, her thyroid cartilage, hyoid bone fractured. Her throat muscles hemorrhaged. There were fingernail marks on her throat. And she also suffered, quote, pre-death blunt force trauma consistent with having been punched repeatedly in the head. She had such severe bruising underneath her skin that it extended to her chest muscles, stomach, and abdomen. Part of her spine had been crushed by a blow to the upper abdomen. Damn. Once again, no evidence she was raped, but there was semen on her clothing. The police interviewed Audrey's boyfriend, Jack West, who had several aliases. He gave conflicting statements. He was also known to beat her regularly. He became the prime suspect in her murder, but was not charged. That piece of shit apparently was the reason for most of the scars on her body, though. Just so many fucking dirtbags. Audrey's sister, Sherry Nelson, will later say at the trial for Audrey's murder that her sister was a rebel and a hardy soul who studied cosmetology before leaving home at 19 and being forced into sex work in New York, where she was badly burned in an apartment fire. She later returned home to Los Angeles, where her young daughter Pearl was being raised by her parents. The reason why my mom was in Los Angeles in the first place is because she'd gotten her life back on track and was on her way to reunite with me, Pearl Nelson would say in court later. A few weeks later, after her mom's body was found, September 3rd, 1989, a 9-year-old boy chasing a soccer ball looks into an abandoned garage off Ascot Avenue and East 43rd and finds the body of 43-year-old Guadalupe Apodaca. Her legs protruding out from underneath a mattress. Like other victims, Guadalupe had died from manual strangulation, had abrasions, bruises on her neck, her larynx, her hyoid bones fractured. She had small points of bleeding on her eyes, bruises on her eyes and nose, cut on her lower lip, bruises on her chest showing that somebody had kneeled on her while they strangled her. Bruises on her forehead and eyes showed that she received blunt force trauma to the face and head, more punches. Atypically for Sam, there was evidence that she had been anally raped. Guadalupe had an arrest record for narcotics possession, forgery, robbery, attempted murder. Witnesses were interviewed, but no suspect was identified, and her case went cold within weeks. But later, at Sam Little's sentencing trial, after he is found guilty of her murder, her son will get a chance to speak directly to Sam, and here is what he will say. Your Honor, my name is Tony Zambrano. I am the son of Guadalupe Apodaca Zambrano, and I want to tell that piece of shit right here, you fucked up. You think this is over? It's not over by a long shot. I've been looking for you for a very long time. Fuck you. Remember me. You will see me again. Cases like Sam's, I would absolutely be in favor of letting the family members of, his victims have a crack at him. If Tony wants to sign up for it and volunteer, give him 10 minutes in a room with Sam and no fucking rules. Anything goes, everything's legal, just old school gladiator type shit. Back to the fall of 1989, Sam Little, almost 50 years old now, slips out of LA undetected, makes his way back to the Midwest and the South, murdering an additional 22 women. Fuck. And then his last known victim is 46-year-old Nancy Carol Stevens, who was strangled to death, found along the side of the road in Tupelo, Mississippi. Not long before Nancy died, she was pictured with her son, Adrian, who just graduated from Auburn University. Wish I knew more about her. She looked so fucking happy, healthy, very beautiful in that graduation photo. By 2007, Sam returned to Los Angeles, where he was arrested for drug possession. Dude loved his cocaine. Pled guilty, ordered to attend a rehab program, but he never showed up. Police issued a warrant for his arrest, but he was able to slip out of town once more. 2012 now? God damn. This dude's been out on the loose for fucking ever. But now LAPD detective Mitzi Roberts is working the 3 homicide cases from the late 80s. Carol Alford, Audrey Nelson, Guadalupe Apodaca, with the cold case special section, CCSS. Back on May 6, 2009, a CCSS detective had submitted evidence from the 1989 murder of Guadalupe to the Serial Investigation Division, which sent the evidence along for DNA analysis. And on March 1st, 2010, cells extracted from the fingernail kit from the murder of Audrey Nelson are submitted for analysis. And this is why fucking science is one of the many reasons science is so important. You don't fund science. You don't fucking care about science in a culture. You don't get advances that lead to shit like this. Then on April 26, 2012, DNA testing confirms a case-to-case match linking both cases to Samuel Little, a.k.a. Samuel McDowell. 2011, Molly Megahe, a DNA analyst from Cellmark Forensics, receives a sexual assault kit, fingernail kit from the Audrey Nelson case. The DNA in the sexual assault kit matches Audrey and an unknown male, but not Samuel Little. DNA analysis from the fingernail scrapings is inconclusive, but DNA analysis of fingernail clippings from Audrey's right hand found to contain Audrey and an unknown male's DNA. Fingernail clippings from Audrey's left hand test positive for blood, have both Audrey and Samuel Little's DNA on them. Jennifer Sampson, a DNA analyst from Bodie Technology, then found that Sam's DNA matched the major contributor of DNA found on 2 pieces of Guadalupe Apodaca's shirt. This was the definitive evidence that would link Sam Little to 2 murders. Carol Alford's murder will be linked to Sam here soon. Medical examiner Christopher Rogers noted in each case the deceased person was a woman of a particular age between 35 and 46. They had all been strangled manually. They all had blunt trauma in addition to the strangulation. Each of them was nude from the waist down when they were originally found. The decedents were all found in South Central Los Angeles, and they all had cocaine in their blood, and 2 of them had alcohol. And now the LAPD gives Sam that nickname of the choke and stroke killer.
I stroke it to the east, and I stroke it to the west, and I stroke it to the woman that I love the best. I be stroking.
I doubt Clarence would be real happy about me linking his song with this piece of shit. It's actually a very fun song that I'm now giving a dark association to. Detective Mitzi Roberts wanted to know who the hell Sam Little was. She pulled his records, saw that his adult arrest history went all the way back to 1956. That's fucking crazy. And over the next 5 decades and change, he was arrested in Ohio, Maryland, Florida, Maine, Connecticut, Oregon, Colorado, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Arizona, Georgia, Illinois, Missouri, California, and some other states. His charges included but were not limited to burglary, breaking and entering, assault and battery, assault with intent to rob, assault with a firearm, armed robbery, assault on a police officer, solicitation of prostitution, driving under the influence, shoplifting, theft, grand theft, possession of marijuana, unlawful flight to avoid prosecution, resisting arrest, battery, false imprisonment, assault with great bodily harm, robbery, rape, and sodomy. And he'd served just 10 years, roughly, combined for those crimes. Detective Roberts decided to look into the cases that were most closely resembled the 3 murders she was already trying to solve, and Mitzi found 4 living victims in Mississippi and San Diego: Hilda Nelson, Leila McLean, Lori Barros, and Tanya Jackson. She and her partner resubmitted the evidence for additional testing. She reached out to investigators around the country to track Samuel Little's movements. Sadly, while he got arrested several times after Mitzi began her search, while she and other cops ran his name in databases on a regular basis, there was a system delay, and hits on Sam would show up a day, sometimes even a week late, and he had already moved on. So they just kept barely missing him. Sam Little started to feel like a ghost. Right? He's got no address, no registered car, no credit card, no relations he's in touch with, just brief sightings. Finally, Detective Roberts receives a hit that Sam's name had just popped up in Calcasieu Parish, Louisiana. A detective saw him outside a local homeless shelter, hanging around some sex workers, found a crack pipe in his fucking pocket. He's 72 years old at this point. That's wild. I hate this guy. I really hate this guy, but I do hope that I'm able to, if I want to, party it up with some crack in my 70s. I mean, crack's terrible. We've gone over that a bunch of times. But if you're going to get into crack, I feel like doing it in your 70s is the right call. Right? Because you're still young enough, hopefully, to still enjoy that sweet, sweet crack. I mean, there's a reason it's so addictive. It's, I hear it's fucking great. Terrible, but like when you're high, really great, really great. But if, in your 70s, maybe hopefully still young enough to enjoy it, and then, but old enough that if you do OD, it's not really a tragedy. It's not a tragedy it would have been if you had OD'd in your younger years. Right? There's not going to be anybody legitimately saying, "Oh Lord, why do the good always die young?" I mean, come on. Some people at the funeral will be upset, but some other people will be like, "That's a pretty badass way to go out." He was 78. He died smoking crack. The detective spoke to Mitzi Roberts, rushed to the shelter, but he was too late. Sam left 2 days earlier. Just missed him again. The detective alerted local law enforcement to be on the lookout. Authorities learned that Sam somehow received some disability benefits on a Walmart card. Not sure how that works. Detective Roberts calls Walmart customer service, enters Sam's social security number and date of birth to get his transaction history, and discovers that he recently went to a liquor store in Louisville, Kentucky. Fucking crack pipe and then liquor store. This dude was never going to stop partying. Never going to stop choking and stroking until the day he died, if he was free. That liquor store purchase is what finally will lead to him getting taken down. Sam Little's arrested September 5th, 2012, Hail Nimrod. Within 3 hours of finding his transaction history, Sam was arrested in Louisville near the Wayfair homeless shelter on an outstanding narcotics warrant from California. Well done, Detective Mitzi Roberts. Finally, someone gets him. Now, Detective Roberts has to figure out how to keep behind bars until she can secure murder charges. Luckily, she has that narcotics charge. Roberts presented her case to Deputy DA Beth Silverman. She said it wasn't enough, though. She said she needed to see a more definitive pattern of evidence and hear reports from living victims. And Mitzi now has to hustle before Sam's able to, get away like he's been getting away for, about half a century. Less than 3 months later, while Sam is still being held on November 26, 2012, Detective Roberts gets a third case-to-case hit on Sam. His DNA found on the bra and shirt worn by L.A. victim Carol Alford. DNA analyst Amanda Mendoza from Bodie Technology Laboratory had tested a sexual assault kit, Carol's clothing, with some new DNA tech. These samples compared to Carol's DNA and a cheek swab from Samuel Little. Semen found on Carol's shirt was found to contain a mix of Carol and Sam's DNA. The right and left cup of Carol's bra had DNA from 3 or more people on it, including Carol herself and at least one male, and that male's DNA profile consistent with the profile of Samuel Little's DNA. On December 10th, 2012, Sam Little is admitted to a California state prison for an old outstanding charge of possession of a controlled substance. So they do got him on that for a little while longer at least. Meanwhile, Detective Roberts, her partner, obtained statements from living witnesses, Hilda Nelson, Leila McLean, Lori Barros. They all agreed to testify. Their lives, fortunately, in much more stable places than they had been back with, Sam when he had attacked them years earlier. A month later, January 7th, 2013, the DA's office files 3 murder charges against Sam with special circumstances for multiple murders. And Sam is formally indicted April 2013 for 3 killings in the Los Angeles area. The murders of Linda Carol Alford, killed July 13th, 1987, Guadalupe Duarte Apodaca, killed September 3rd, 1987, and Audrey Nelson Everett, killed August 14th, 1989. Investigators determined to make sure that, unlike in earlier cases, Sam will be convicted and put away for life this time. And putting him away for life is, going to be a bit easier now because he's 72, almost 73 years old. Opening statements for Sam Little's triple murder trial start August 18th, 2014. Deputy DA Beth Silverman told the jury that the 3 victims were troubled women who struggled with addiction and turned to sex work to buy drugs. And these factors made them vulnerable targets for predators, exactly like Sam Little, right? Less alive. Silverman pointed out the similar circumstances in the cases, that the victims were not wearing underwear. The underwear was not found at the crime scene. Seems like Sam might have been keeping some trophies. They weren't wearing any kind of pants or skirt found at the crime scene either. There was no ID or personal belongings in the vicinity. There were drag marks leading up to their bodies, meaning the women had been dragged to, dumped off at a location different from where they'd been killed. All of the victims had been strangled. All had cocaine in their system, right? All dumped in isolated locations. All been punched, or appear to have been punched. Sam's attorney, Mike Pence, will argue that much of the evidence and statements have nothing to do with the charges Little is facing. Okay. August 20th, 2014, survivor Leila McLean testifies about surviving her attack by Sam Little, who she positively identifies in court. She tells the jury that back in 81, she was selling shoes out of her car and doing sex work to support her 3 children. And can I pause for a moment to acknowledge how odd of a combination that is? I mean, truly not mocking her. She had a fucking hard life. She doesn't need that. But that's just it's an odd combo. Shoes and sex work. It's a darkly funny combo to me. So you want anal for $150, sugar? No? Okay. All right. How about these Jordans for $100? Too much? How about some sweet pussy for $75? No? Okay. All right. How about these Reeboks for $60? Still too steep. Okay, really tough times. Okay, how about a blowjob for $40? Come on, sugar. At least buy these flip-flops for $15. I'll let you stare at my titties while you jerk off. It's just such a fucking... I mean, I'm sure she wasn't doing it at the same time. Well, I don't know that. I mean, why wouldn't you? I mean, if you had a bunch of shoes in your trunk, in your car already, and you already got a customer for one thing, why not try and upsell them to a little bit? It's like, yeah, you like that blowjob? Well, I bet you love these fucking Reeboks. Okay, back to Leila McLean. On the night of, and again, I'm not making fun of Leila because I feel very, very bad for her, but that's weird 2 things to be doing. November 19th, 1981. She's working in a nightclub where she rented a room. She eventually left the club, walked through the streets of Pascagoula. A man who'd been driving past the club throughout the night pulled up alongside her, got out, asked if she did sex work, how much she wanted for it. He insisted on going to the Shamrock Hotel. She got in his car, but then he drove past it. I think it's actually a motel. Sometimes it's called a hotel. At this point, started to get scared. Leila told him to go back. She told him that if he turned the car around, she'd throw in a pair of New Balances. So I can't stop thinking about the fucking combo of shoes and sex work. She really did ask him to turn around, though, and head back. And as I believe I mentioned earlier, Sam told her, I don't need to turn around for what I want to do to you. And then he punched her in the head to stun her as I went over, started strangling her. She testified he was choking the life out of me. I'm still fighting, scratching, and kicking and biting. And he'd have to turn me loose because I'm biting his hands. If I can, anywhere I can get me a piece of him, I'm trying to get him like he's trying to get me. Fucking Leila's a warrior. Hell, Lucifina. Hilda Nelson, Lori Barros gives similar testimony to Leila McLean's. Poor Lori, overcome with emotion and I'm sure some fucking PTSD terror, she collapsed during her first attempt of trying to get on the stand. Then the officers, Louis Tamani, Wayne Sees, they testify on behalf of Tanya Jackson, the woman whose life they'd saved, the woman who had survived an attack just a month after Lori Barros. Closing arguments are presented August 29th, 2014. The prosecution summarized all the physical and circumstantial evidence against Sam, emphasizing that all 3 victims were killed with the same MO in a 5-mile radius, all with Sam's DNA on their bodies. On September 2nd, 2014, the jury finds Sam Little guilty on all 3 counts of murder. That monster's run, at long last, finally over. On September 25th, 2014, Sam Little sentenced to 3 life sentences without the possibility of parole. Audrey Nelson's daughter Pearl, among several people who gave victim impact statements. She gave one on her mother's behalf. We met her briefly earlier. She talked about how Audrey had made the difficult decision to give her to her grandparents. Her mom came to LA because she was getting her life back together, was on her way to reuniting with Pearl after 13 years apart, but that opportunity taken away from her by Sam Little. Sam also gave a statement after he had been cautioned by the judge, after he had interrupted the proceedings earlier by shouting, "I didn't do it." And Sam told the court defiantly, this conviction was brought on by lies and liars coached by liars. I hope that in the new trial, if I get one, the evidence that was withheld and looked over will be brought up by my attorneys in a fair trial. The obsession of labeling me as a serial killer without any proof, any bodies, was illegal lynching. Speculation and surmising is not proof. Well, motherfucker, they have, quite a bit of DNA, so that's not speculation. That's not surmising. Sam lost his bid for an appeal January 30th, 2017. The court rejected his argument that there was insufficient evidence to prove he had committed the murders, that the court had erred by admitting evidence of other crimes to establish his identity as the perpetrator, and that the court had erred by excluding evidence that could have shown a third party's culpability. Sam will maintain his innocence until 2018. And then I think the reality that there was zero chance that he was ever going to walk free again finally sunk in. He wasn't getting another shot at an appeal. Even if he did, he's fucking 78 years old. By the time the appeal was going to be heard, he's not in great health. By the time the trial is going to be over, even if he wins, well, it's going to be hard for him to live that long. He's definitely too old, not good enough health to pull off an escape attempt. It's fucking wild if a 78-year-old busted out of a maximum security prison, got away with it. With continued advances in DNA technology, maybe he also realized that he was bound to be connected to more murders, making escape feel more possible or more impossible. His days of choking, stroking are gone. Now I guess, unless he wants to fucking choke himself by strokes. And now I guess, resolved to die in prison, he decides, fuck it, might as well come clean. I doubt his decision was motivated by helping victims' families begin to heal. Probably wanted the notoriety of being America's most prolific serial killer and wanted to flaunt the fact that he'd gotten away with so many killings for so long, in law enforcement's faces. In a letter to the LA Times, Sam wrote that he finally confessed because he knew he wasn't going to get another trial and because he did want to help the victims' families. Or he wanted to help someone who was wrongfully convicted of a murder he committed get freed also. And that's bullshit. These fucking sadists, they're never motivated by any reason that's even remotely altruistic. Not ever. I firmly believe that once you go full monster, there is no hope for redemption. You've gone past the point of ever being able to return to being a fucking normal, good person. Reminds me of like Ted Bundy when he's like, it was the pornography. I know I'm going to die, but I just want to help others not get addicted to the porn that turned me into a monster. No, plenty of people fucking watch porn and don't do that kind of shit. Anyway, whatever the real reason, May 17th, 2018, Sam Little speaks to Texas Ranger James B. Holland, who was known for having a knack for eliciting confessions from killers. Holland first heard about Sam the year before at a 2017 homicide investigation conference in Florida. Cold case detective heard Holland's lecture, approached him about a murder he thought Sam committed. Holland was interested, but couldn't look into Little himself without a Texas case. He then reached out to Department of Justice Senior Forensic Policy Advisor Dr. Angela Williamson and VICAP crime analyst Christine Palazzolo, I think, to see if there were any cases there. VICAP, the FBI's Violent Criminal Apprehension Program. They assisted Holland in finding a Texas cold case that could be linked to Sam Little. Christine P. always remembered one particular cold case when she was assisting the LAPD in their investigation of Sam Little, Denise Brothers, who was killed in Odessa, Texas in January 1994. One of those nearly 100 names I had read earlier. Denise was reported missing January 1st of that year. Then her body was found a month later. She had been strangled. Out of a dozen potential Texas cases, this seemed to have the strongest link to Sam. Denise was a sex worker. She was strangled and found partially nude. Sam was in the area around the time of her murder. Before the meeting, Holland focused on understanding Sam's mindset. Sam believed he was simply misunderstood, that he was a victim in a sense, that he had been lied to, set up, deceived, and manipulated by lying women. Dude's mommy issues. Man, got so many women killed. During that fateful meeting, May 17th, Sam started off by ranting about his unfair trial. Holland listened sympathetically. He stroked Sam's ego, and eagle. Usually I get so annoyed by my own slip of the tongues. But I like that one. I fucking love suddenly imagining that Sam had an eagle with him. Like, he's never going to get out of prison, but they do let him have a pet eagle that he allows other people to stroke, to gain favor with him. It's like, I'll confess, you just got to stroke my bird. Anyway, Holland listened sympathetically. He stroked Sam's ego, told Sam that he admired him, but yeah, he'd probably been railroaded, that he didn't believe he was a rapist. Those women had set him up and lied to him. Right? Women, they lie. They lie to everybody. And they almost never get punished for it. It's a damn shame, that kind of shit. And then the eagle was like, caw! Like a little affirmation, caw. I guess eagles don't caw. They screech. I can't do a screech. Can't do an eagle screech. Anyway, this ego stroking. The ego stroking combined with the bird petting works. Sam begins to open up. He and Holland started talking about his art, which, by the way, fucking sucks. Sam would talk about like how good his portraits are, and some sources are like he's an excellent, portraitist, or does he excellent portrait? No, he didn't. Looks like a fucking sixth grader who's fairly good at drawing faces. He's fucking shit at art. But anyway, he and Holland start talking about his art, about his boxing. Holland's like, oh, it's so great. Oh man, you're such a good fighter. You're such a good drawer. or whatever. Holland acted like they were, becoming good friends. Oh, I love your eagle. And he asked him, what do you prefer to be called? And Sam said Sammy. And calling him Sammy seemed to really butter him up. Didn't take much. He started talking a bit more loosely, but Sammy was still hesitant to fully confess to more murders. He worried that if he revealed the true extent of his crimes, he would get the death penalty and be separated from his precious bird. That motherfucker, so many murders of young women, and now as an old man, he's so worried about saving his own ass. You can fucking die soon anyway. Holland promised he would talk to prosecutors, that he would make sure Sam never saw the chair or the needle. Also said that if Samuel told the full truth, he'd be able to show the world that he wasn't a murderer and a rapist. Holland asked, has Sam Little killed people? Yeah, come on, we both know that. The question is, does Sam Little want to talk about those killings? Does he want to define what really happened? Wink, wink. It was those ladies' fault. Sam then admitted to not just one, but 3 murders in Texas, including Denise and Odessa. 2 of the murders were not on the original list of potential victims. Sammy told Holland that killing was a lot like doing drugs. And just like he enjoyed how cocaine made him feel, I mean, who doesn't? It's dangerous. Don't do it. He liked how murder made him feel as well. He said he, quote, came to like it. And then Sam really opened up after Holland returned the next day with a deal from Texas prosecutors promising Samuel wouldn't get the death penalty if he confessed. Sam now spent the next 4 hours confessing to 17 more murders. During this interview, Sam also spoke a bit about his background and true motivation. He revealed that he was sexually aroused by the sight and feel of a woman's neck, that growing up he had a dream about killing a girl who touched her neck. Okay, he told Holland he had been married once, that he had 2 long-term girlfriends who followed him around. This other girlfriend's never really named. He never killed anyone he was close to, he said, in order to not be tempted to kill them. He said he tried not to look at their necks. God, no one has fucking had a neck kink stronger than Sam Little. Dude loved necks. Surprised he never pulled Ed Kemper. Tried to fuck somebody's windpipe. Mother, no! Don't you bring me into this sick suck, mother suck master. Don't you get my samples all riled up. Did you know that son of a bitch Kemper was up for parole last summer, by the way? Didn't get released. I mean, crazy that it was possible, though. He's pretty old now. Anyway, to keep Sam talking, Holland told him that his interviews were not interrogations. He was just trying to, have a conversation. He's not trying to get him in more trouble. He just wanted to learn about the real Sam Little, how he was able to outsmart so many people for so long, how he became so damn good at evading capture. What made a man like that tick? A ladies' man. Again, he just kept stroking his ego and eagle, and he established a strong bond with Sam and his bird, and Sam kept confessing. Then on August 8th, 2018, Sam would make a second friend of sorts when journalist Jillian Lauren, who he met, went to visit Sam at the California State Prison. When she saw him for the first time, she didn't think he looked like a brutal killer, not at all. He was a calm, elderly man, suffering from heart problems and diabetes, 17-year-old in poor health, was needing a wheelchair to get around. Sam called Lauren an angel come to visit me from heaven. He said, God knew I was lonely and he sent me you. You want a story for your book? Ooh-wee. Do I have a story? Sam was eager to chat. He started off by talking about their childhoods, his family tree, Lauren's children, their hobbies, his love of drawing. Sam told her he could draw anything. Not well. And he said, I live in my mind now with my babies and my drawings. Now with these robots in here. The only thing I was ever good at was fighting and drawing. Might want to just cross that one down to fighting. His babies, by the way, are what he called many of the women he killed. He claimed that he loved them, that they now lived with him in his mind. That's not super cringy or fucked up. Just a guy. He been stroking to the east. He been stroking to the west. And creating love babies. That's what he did best. About 6 hours. After about 6 hours of talking, Sam abruptly demanded the TV if Lauren wanted to hear any confessions. His eyes quickly turned flat, emotionless, and predatory. But Lauren did not let him intimidate her. Sam finally broke the tension by laughing, and then he agreed to tell her about the first victim. He said, she was a big old blonde. Roundabout turn of the new year, 1969 to 1970, Miami, Coconut Grove, Coconut Grove. She was a whole prostitute. She was sitting in a restaurant booth, red leather, real nice. She crossed them big legs in her fishnet stockings, touched her neck. That was my sign from God. That's fucking scary. Jillian Lauren wrote in her book, Behold the Monster, with that, he began an incantation of murders. He remembered 86, give or take a couple. With astonishing detail and near photographic recall, he took me back through his past when the road was his home and the back alleys and underbelly bars of city after city across the country offered a feast of low-hanging fruit, women who Sam believed in his heart had only been waiting for him to show up and finish the job. Back to better times when Sam believed God himself gently placed neck after willing neck, still pulsing with life into his hungry hands. He imagined himself as some kind of angel of mercy, divinely commissioned to euthanize. Well, that's very scary. Sam told Lauren that he had only ever confessed to one other person, Texas Ranger James Holland. Over the coming months, Lauren would continue her interviews with Sam and take any relevant details he shared with her to the police to help them solve more cold cases. In another interview, Lauren asked Sam 5 words that he would use to describe himself, and he answered: mad, misunderstood, unlikable, angry, stroking to the east, I've been stroking to the west, I've been stroking to the ladies that I love best. I don't even know if that's the words of that song. Hateful was the last one. She asked him how it felt to kill people, and he lit up. He answered, I love ooh-wee is written in quotes in several of his quotes. He answered, ooh-wee, felt like heaven. Felt like being in bed with Marilyn Monroe. Felt like being in love. So fucking creepy. She learned that in his own beyond twisted and fucked up way, he loved these women, idolized them, but he was disappointed in them when they inevitably revealed their fallible human nature. He put them up on a pedestal, and when they couldn't stay there, he fucking killed them. Sam shared with her that he believed that he owned the souls of his victims, the ones he called his babies, and that they would one day all be reunited in heaven. Fuck. He had told them he loved them as he was choking them to death, as he was getting more and more aroused, and sometimes he would make them say it back to him as they died. These monsters are so scary in large part because they're so fucking insane. Even if they're not criminally insane, they're all insane. You can't reason with a killer and get them to spare your life if they think that them killing you is an act of love or an act of releasing their soul to be with him. They've been preordained by God type shit. If they think that they're going to get to own you once they kill you, be reunited with you in heaven later. Lauren asked why he felt like he needed to own these women, and Sam answered, quote, I wanted their helplessness. All I ever wanted was for them to cry in my arms. The fuck? Lauren told Sam she was glad she never encountered him on a dark night, and he replied, but I never killed nobody like my smart baby here. I never killed no senators, governors, or fancy New York journalists, nothing like that. I killed you. It'll all be over the news the next day. Man, he understood the game. He understood the less alive, the less dead. Crazy as he was, he's also methodical. Interestingly, he told Lauren that he didn't kill the Los Angeles victims and that the women who testified against him, they were all liars. No idea what motivated him to think or say that. Maybe he just hated that those ladies got away or something. After a bunch of chats with Lauren, Sam Little traveled back to Texas September 24th, 2018. Their ranger, James Holland, spent the next few months meeting with Sam, building more rapport by having breakfast with him, talking about sports and politics, further interviewing him about his victims. Similar to his interviews with Jillian Lauren, Sam was oddly reluctant to confess to the LA murders. Holland provided Sam with art supplies so he could draw portraits of the victims whose faces he could remember. Paired with his confessions, these portraits would actually help solve several cold cases. Still, it was a difficult challenge to identify dozens of victims because Sam, while he seemed to have a photographic memory, his accurate recall of events and exact dates was deteriorating as he's getting older. Samuel Little wrote notes on some of his portraits, little details of what he remembered, such as Tampa Dope Girl, New Orleans, Sarah Lefton Field, 1973 April, Akron, Lefton Woods, 1990. Ranger Holland would tell the LA Times about these interviews, quote, Samuel Little has given me a massive gift, a gift to bring closure to victims' families who have gone years without knowing what really happened to their loved ones. I have a responsibility. It's a big one. I feel it. I have to run with this and take it wherever it goes, do whatever it takes. And we know time is slipping away. Holland also called Sam a sociopath, saying the man is an absolute genius and he has a sickness. He doesn't know why, and I don't know why. Man, thank God a sickness like that is not contagious in the sense that like the flu is. Imagine if some sick motherfucker like Sam could sneeze on you, and then a few days later, you can't stop thinking about necks. Start making you so hard. Start thinking about how good it would feel to put your hands around them, squeeze them, not let them go until the owner of said neck is no longer breathing, and is now your love baby who you're going to see in heaven. Detectives from all over the country are now coming to listen to Sam's interviews and to question him further in connection to various cold cases in their jurisdictions. Over the next year and a half, Sam will confess to a total of 93 murders over 650 hours of interviews. Ranger James Holland would eventually be assisted by Christy Palazzolo, Angela Williamson from the FBI, who worked to match his confessions to cases all across the country. These cases span 37 cities. 18 of the victims killed in Los Angeles alone, per Sam's confessions. FBI crime analyst Christina fucking P. Said in a later news release, he went through city and state and gave Ranger Holland the number of people he killed in each place. Jackson, Mississippi, 1. Cincinnati, Ohio, 1. Phoenix, Arizona, 3. Las Vegas, Nevada, 1. On November 11, 2018, Sam was booked into a Texas prison after he was indicted for the 1994 murder of Christine Brothers. His confession to Ranger Holland had proved he was in Odessa when she went missing. Sam told author Jillian Lauren that on the night in question, Denise was on her way to see her pimp. Sam approached her in his vehicle. That night, he purchased crack and heroin for Denise and her pimp, who left Denise in the car with him to, quote, pay the bill in trade. Ugh. November 27, 2018, FBI announced that Sam Little has confessed to 90 murders in exchange for being moved from California to Texas, where he will likely stay until his death. The FBI reported that Sam had been speaking with authorities daily to create the most accurate accounting possible of Little's crimes. An excerpt from the FBI statement reads, Little remembers his victims and the killings in great detail. He remembers where he was, what car he was driving. He draws pictures of many of the women he killed. He is less reliable, however, when it comes to remembering dates. The FBI also noted with no stab marks or bullet wounds, many of these deaths were not classified as homicides, but attributed, as I mentioned earlier, to drug overdoses, accidents, and natural causes, even when it's fucking obvious it was not natural causes. At the time of the announcement, investigators had definitively linked Sam to 34 murders, not including the 3 in California. Experts commented on what an atypical serial killer Sam was. Unlike most murderers, he did not stick to a preferred area. Enzo Yaksik, co-director of the Northeastern University's Atypical Homicide Research Group, told the Associated Press, Little is unique in that modern-day serial murderers rarely travel the distances he claims to have traversed and instead select vulnerable victims from their own communities. This behavior, paired with his selection of vulnerable people, no doubt contributed to his longevity. Most serial killers in today's society kill 2 or 3 victims and are caught within a few years. Also that month, media outlets reported on Sam's Mississippi confessions. He was linked to bodies found in Gulfport, Sosha, 1992, as well as an unknown 16-year-old boy killed in Jackson in 84. The victims included 27-year-old Alice Denise Tina Taylor, strangled and dumped under some tires on the side of the road in Gulfport, December 11th, 1992. 19-year-old Tracy Lynn Johnson, found dead on January 3rd, 1993, off a dirt road used as an illegal dump site across the 21,200 block of US 49. Sam confessed that he killed the 2 women on the same day in December, after picking them up at different times from the same nightclub called the Flamingo Club. Witnesses referred to those women as best friends. They were last seen at the club, North Gulfport, December 7th, 1992, between 4 and 5 p.m. Taylor's boyfriend last saw her in the parking lot between 9 and 10 p.m. Tracy Johnson's autopsy showed she had intercourse before she was beaten and strangled to death. Sam was also linked to the murder of a 36-year-old woman named Julia Critchfield, a mother of 4, found strangled, dumped off a cliff into a dirt pit on the north end of Sosha. Her body found January 22nd, 1978. Additionally, Sam implicated himself in the murder of Melinda Lepre in Pascagoula, a case in which a grand jury failed to indict him in the 80s. Police were unable to identify the 16-year-old male victim killed in Jackson in 84. In late November, also reported that the Omaha police were looking into Sam's connection with the murder of Agatha White Buffalo, whom we met, found strangled, put upside down in that 55-gallon drum at the Sturgis Hide Company in November 1973. Sam also confessed to killing a woman in Opelousas, Louisiana, Opelousas, identified as 24-year-old Melissa Thomas. Melissa left her family home January 31st, 1996, to buy some cigarettes from a gas station. Often took a shortcut through a cemetery to get home. Supposed to be a quick errand, but Melissa never returned. She was later found dead in the cemetery with scratch marks on her neck, indicating strangulation. Melissa fully clothed, there was no trace evidence found on her body. When Sam recalled killing a woman in Opelousas, investigators reached out to local law enforcement to see if the city had open cases matching the description. And Opelousas City Police Department Captain Crystal LeBlanc interviewed Sam. He recalled that the victim was wearing a flower print dress, which was true and not public knowledge. Captain LeBlanc would provide some additional details from the interview, such as saying, she said he was stroking her neck. And he said that while he was stroking her neck, she said, "Why are you touching my neck like that? Are you a serial killer or something?" And at that point, he said, "I got angry." And he said, "And I just started choking her." Captain LeBlanc asked Sam if he asked God for forgiveness, and he responded, "Why do I have to ask him to forgive me? He made me this way." December 13th, 2018. Sam pled guilty to the murder of Denise Brothers, sentenced to life in prison in Texas to run concurrently to his life sentences in California. February 2019, the family of Zena Maria Jones reached out to the police after seeing one of Sam's sketches. Originally from Memphis, Zena had told her sister she's going to hitchhike to Chicago. Sister told her not to, even sent her a bus ticket, but she never heard from her again, and the family reported her missing in 1990. Sam confessed in the early to mid-1990s he had met a woman in Memphis, strangled her to death, dumped her body on the Arkansas side of the Mississippi River, and Zena's family believed she was the woman that Sam drew. However, a man named Anthony Jones also came forward to report that his mom looked similar to the portrait. She was strangled, found on the shore of Mud Island Park, 1997. Man, so many fucking strangled women, my God. That same month, it was reported that Sam would be indicted for a 1993 murder in Perry, Florida. Sam confessed to killing a 19-year-old woman named Ruby Lane there, provided details only the killer would know. Her remains found identified many years after she went missing. Sam also admitted to 2 murders in Miami-Dade County, including the murder of Mary Jo Brosley, believed to be the first victim, as we went over earlier. Law enforcement in Miami-Dade chose not to charge him because he was already serving life in prison. May 31st, 2019, Sam indicted in Ohio after confessing to the murderers of Mary Jo Payton, another Mary Jo, and Rose Evans. On July 3rd, 1984, this Mary Jo found dead in a factory stairwell in Cleveland. She remained unidentified until 1992 when her fingerprints were submitted to the FBI. Her death was not originally classified as a homicide because her body was too decomposed to identify cause of death. Sam said he picked this Mary Jo up at a bar, took her behind some old factories where they had sex. She became suspicious that he was going to hurt her when he touched her neck, always the fucking neck. Sam then choked her to death, abandoned her body there. Weeks later, a child notified factory employees about a kitten that had wandered into the area, and her body was found during the search for that kitten. Rose Evans found in a vacant lot, August 24th, 1991. She'd been strangled, her body hidden haphazardly under a pile of tires. Sam said he had found Rose in an alley smoking crack with 4 or 5 men. He joined them. He liked a little crack. Rose asked him to drive her to get more drugs. Sam then forced her into the back of his van, and Rose yelled, "You're going to kill me. You're going to strangle me." And he did just that. Rose, originally from Binghamton, New York, she had left home when she was just 17 with a group of friends to visit Cleveland, where she got into drugs, never came home. She married a, quote, no good husband who had her work in the streets, according to her sister. On June 4, 2019, authorities confirmed Little is responsible for the death of a 1983 Jane Doe. Back on March 18th of that year, a woman's skeletal remains were found in Willoughby Hills, Ohio, about 20 miles outside of Cleveland. The victim believed to be between 17 and 24 years old. Her remains may have been there between 2 to 5 years before they were found. Cause of death not identified, but investigators strongly suspected homicide. June 7, 2019, Sam charged with strangling 2 women in Cincinnati, 33-year-old Anna Stewart and a Jane Doe whose body was never found. Anna Stewart murdered October 11th, 1981, dumped in a wooded area behind an apartment complex where she was found the following day. Sam confessed to strangling an unidentified woman, dumping her body under a billboard. She was described as a thin black woman having a wig or wearing a wig and glasses. May have been between 15 and 50 years old. Died between 1980 and 1999. Man, big ranges because of the decomposition. Sam not charged with additional Ohio murders he confessed to due to a lack of evidence. Sam claimed he killed a woman in Cincinnati in 74, dumped her body in Columbus. A few years later, 77 or 78, killed another Jane Doe in Cleveland. Claimed to have killed a 25-year-old woman he met outside a strip club in Columbus in 84. She asked him for a ride to Miami, where her mom lived, and he said, yeah, no problem. Then he drove her to Cincinnati, strangled her, beat her, right, masturbated, dumped her in Covington, Kentucky on a dirt road on a hill. Sam worked out a plea deal with Ohio prosecutors to plead guilty to 2 murders in Cleveland and 2 more in Cincinnati. August 23rd, 2019, Samuel Little sentenced to 2 life sentences. To 2 consecutive terms of 15 years to life for the murders of Anna Stewart and the Cincinnati Jane Doe. To run consecutively or with his other sentences, doesn't fucking matter at this point. After pleading guilty to the Cincinnati murders, he pled guilty to the Cleveland murders of Mary Jo Payton and Rose Evans, sentenced to 40 more years in prison. October 2019, authorities linked Sam to yet another Ohio murder. Victim identified as 34-year-old Roberta Tanderich, a mother from Akron. And I guess I shouldn't have said it doesn't matter. I mean, just all these additional convictions, just make it that much more unlikely that he'll ever get out of prison due to his age. He'd have to win so many appeals in so many places. It's never going to happen now. So it is good just to make sure. in addition to, the families getting some justice. Roberta went missing September 1st, 1991. Her body found in a wooded area, Firestone Metro Park, September 30th. Her cause of death could not be identified at the time. Roberta identified as a victim after her daughter viewed Sam's portrait with the note, Akron left in woods, 1990-91. October 6, 2019, the FBI confirms that 79-year-old Samuel Little is now the most prolific killer in U.S. history. By October of 2019, the FBI's VICAP program had confirmed 50 of the 93 murders he had confessed to. Right? Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer, had previously been the most prolific serial killer, convicted of 49 murders. Gary Cleanween confessed to 71, suspected of possibly killing upwards of 90 women. December 18th, 2019, Sam indicted for the murder of another woman in Savannah, Georgia. Frances Campbell, murdered back in 1984, been missing a full year before her remains were found on a pile of construction debris. Sam identified her as one of the victims just based on her photo without being provided any additional details. He claimed he probably killed another Savannah woman a decade earlier in 1974, thought her name was Kat, said he'd strangled her after they'd had sex in his car, and then he left her body in a grassy area on Montgomery Street, even circled the area after others arrived. Excuse me. He was unsure if he actually killed her. All he knew was that he probably did, that he left her unconscious at the least when he had abandoned her. Georgia prosecutors acknowledged that they would have to wait behind other jurisdictions. We're not sure whether or not they would ever get a trial with Sam. May of 2020, authorities officially closed the case for the murder of 26-year-old Patricia Ann Mount after originally being acquitted of this murder. 36 years before, in 1984, Sam finally confessed. He admitted to strangling her to death in a pasture near Gainesville, Florida in 82. He said in his interview, "I noticed her neck was pretty. That's what I was looking at. I got excited when I seen her throat." Oh my God, so fixated. Sam also confessed to killing 20-year-old Rosie Hill in Ocala, Florida. Rosie's body found August 16, 1982 in the woods near a hog pen off of County Road 326. Sam admitted that they met at a bar. He said he drove her to a different part of town where they had sex before he strangled her. Investigators would soon run out of time to file more charges against Sam or secure additional confessions because in the early morning hours of December 30th, 2020, at a hospital in the LA area, Sam Little dies. He is 80 years old, still serving 3 consecutive life sentences without parole for the deaths of 3 Los Angeles women in the late 80s. Yeah, he had been sent back to LA, even though they thought he was going to stay in Texas till he died. A prison chaplain will confirm that he was now indeed in heaven. And you're not going to like this, but the chaplain confirmed that he was in fact also reunited with the souls of his love babies. His soul finally free to choke, to stroke, forever and ever. Mysterious ways indeed. JK, come on. Oh, gosh dang. Miles, are you going to chime in?
Are you fucking kidding me? I said, are you fucking kidding me?
The AP reported that he'd been suffering from numerous health issues towards the end of his life, including diabetes and heart problems. The DOC, Department of Corrections, declined to announce his cause of death. After Sam's death, authorities did not stop working to try and match his confessions to cold cases around the country. In December of 1977, hunters had found the remains of a woman in Escatawpa, Mississippi. She'd been dead for 3 or 4 months before her remains were found. Her cause of death was undetermined, but then in September of 2021, those remains finally identified as Clara Birdlong. Investigators believe she was killed by Sam Little because he had confessed to killing a woman in the little 3,000-ish person town of Escatawpa. The origin of the band Three Doors Down, for some random trivia, that little town. In January of 2021, detectives began working with Othram Incorporated, a company that has used advanced forensic science to solve multiple cold cases to create a family tree for that Jane Doe. Othram identified a cousin of the victim who connected them to her 93-year-old grandmother. She said her cousin, Clara Birdlong, went missing back in the 70s. Another cousin said Clara was a small woman with a gold tooth, which fit the description of the Jane Doe. Family said Clara left home with the man who said he was going to Florida. We all know Sam visited Florida often. She was never seen or heard from again. By November of 2021, investigators had now confirmed 62 out of 93 murders. That month, the Texas Rangers and the FBI released a joint bulletin detailing Sam's confessions for murders that remained unsolved. On May 18, 2023, a woman known as Macon Jane Doe, publicly identified by Georgia officials, 20-year-old Yvonne Pless, had been classified as a missing person for decades. But her body had actually been found 46 years earlier off of the Arkwright Road in Macon. Yvonne identified via genetic genealogy with the help of Othram Labs. Sam confessed to killing 2 women in Macon. Second woman was identified as Fredonia Smith, murdered in Washington Park in 82. authorities 99% sure that Sam killed Yvonne and Fredonia. And one more, at least as of this recording, on October 2nd, 2024, another Sam Little victim publicly identified, 51-year-old Leola Etta Bryant, found dead in Goose Creek, South Carolina, way back on October 4th, 1977. She'd been missing since March of 74, was last seen at the Midway Bar in nearby North Charleston. At the time the remains were found, investigators not able to determine even the sex of the victim due to the advanced decomposition. The remains were sent to the Medical University of South Carolina, where they remained in storage all the way until 2020. They were then transferred to the University of North Texas Center for Human Identification, then sent to the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office for facial reconstruction. Man, all that tech. Sam had confessed to a murder in the Charleston area back in the 70s in Goose Creek, just about 17 miles from Charleston. He admitted to strangling a woman he had met at a bar, confirmed that he met her at the exact location where Leola Bryant was last seen. And with that, we can finally leave this insanely murderous timeline full of fucking way too many names, way too many victims, way too much choking, and way too much stroking.
Good job, soldier. You made it back. Barely.
And just real quick, before moving ahead, I do have one special sponsor to introduce. This episode of Timesuck was brought to you today by the greatest news store in the history of news stores, Tricks and Kicks. Hey there, sugar. You've been working hard for that money, and you deserve to relax and enjoy the fruits of your labors, honey. You deserve to feel good. You deserve to look good, too. So how about you come on down to Tricks and Kicks? You get your dick sucked. We're also getting fitted for a new pair of Air Jordan 3 Retro Rare Airs in multiple color configurations. How about you come in and get your balls licked? Right after you check out our selection of Reebok C85s in 5 exciting new colors. How about you put on a brand new pair of New Balance 90s, 60s, and new Spruce with Peach Blossom and Team Royal color pattern? Or one of our lovely sales associates bounces their tight-wear pussies up and down on your hard-working firm dick, sugar. Get yourself some new kicks. Get yourself some new tricks. Right now, Kicks and Tricks, we're running a sale, sugar. 30 minutes of pussy, 30 minutes ahead. Two pairs of minivans in stock for just $149. For you to take home once you climb your satisfied ass out of our in-store waterbed. Kicksandtricks.biz, baby. We got the best ass supply. We got any kind of ass you could ever want to try. And also new custom fit orthotic inserts for every shape of foot to keep your back from hurting while you looking fly, baby. Kicksandtricks.biz. Walk in stressed, depressed, and need a rest. Walk out dressed for success and feeling your very best. Kicksandtricks.biz, baby. God, that's all ethical considerations aside, that's quite a sales pitch. I like new shoes. I like a good insert. Makes me feel good. Helps my back not feel stiff. All the other stuff, I like that as well. I like a waterbed. I think Tricks and Kicks is going to do very well. I'm going to keep my eye out for their IPO. But that's not what I'm supposed to be talking about right now. I'm supposed to be talking about old fucking choke and stroke, Sam Little. Man, I guess if you're just willing to never settle down, to never have any real stability, bounce around the country, drive stolen cars, wearing shoplifted clothes, popping in and out of jail, not maintaining strong social ties with anyone other than a fellow thief and nomad and loose romantic partner, willing to sleep in seedy motels with you or homeless shelters or in a car or on the street while you snort coke or smoke crack with sex workers, you'll probably choke to death and toss out in the woods or swamp before you drive on over to the next seedy neighborhood or the next wrong part of the next town endlessly for decades. Well, then you too could maybe by the time you make it to your old age become America's most prolific serial killer. Sounds like even outside of the murdering. Just a fucking terrible life, right? There's no real winners in this story. The women Sam killed, their families who mourned them, well, they certainly didn't win, but neither did Sam. Dude lived like a fucking cockroach for nearly his whole life, hiding from the law, hiding from the light, spending nearly all his time in dark bars and dark nightclubs, dark woods in his car with his next victim, sleeping in shitty motels or worse, stealing and fighting and hurting and moving, always moving to avoid finally paying the piper for decades of hurt. Imagine he always slept with one eye open, wondering when he would have to finally pay that piper. He had to have hated who he was, hated being the guy who couldn't make love to his wife, got so angry he ran out of the house, wrapped his car around a telephone pole. He knew something was really wrong with him. Knew it when he was a little kid, fixated on women's necks, then fixated on thoughts of women's dead bodies, being strangled shortly thereafter. In a better world, he would have just known he needed help. He would have had a family to help support him who would, told him that it's okay to need help. It's okay to have dark thoughts. You got to share those. You got to talk to us, buddy, about anything. We love you. And they would have supported him as he went on a therapeutic journey to identify where his darkest desires were coming from, how to manage or even eliminate them. So don't be any version of Sam Little. Get help. Get in therapy if you're struggling with desires you know are wrong. And treat your children much better than Sam was treated by his family, right? Show them love. Make them feel worthwhile. Make them feel cared for, protected, valued, and respected. Time for the takeaways.
Timesuck Top 5 Takeaways.
Number 1, Samuel Little grew up mostly in Lorain, Ohio, but he spent the majority of his adult life as a transient. His criminal career spanned 6 decades. Insane. His arrest record, literally over 100 pages long, across 24 states. His criminal convictions prior to his final arrest include serious offenses like robbery, assault. Right? He's even brought to trial for murder in 1984, but he was acquitted, set free to continue killing for many, many more years. Number 2, 2018, Samuel Little confessed to 93 murders. It's fucking crazy. He gave his confessions to Texas Ranger James Holland, author and journalist Jillian Lauren, also some additional law enforcement officers from all over the country. Sam struggled to recall dates and names, but he had a photographic memory, used that to create portraits of his victims. He recalled vivid details of the scenery and the events before, during, and after the murders that would help investigators link his confessions and portraits to multiple cold cases and solve many. Number 3, in October of 2019, the FBI confirmed that Samuel Little was the most prolific serial killer in American history after confirming 50 of his 93 confessions, a count that has since increased as of the time of this recording to 62 confirmed murders. Number 4, despite his confessions and being charged in other jurisdictions, Sam was ultimately found guilty in court of only 8 murders, 3 in California, 1 in Texas, 4 in Ohio. However, he would receive multiple life sentences to ensure he would never, ever leave prison. Number 5, new info. Let's talk about Jillian Lauren again, instead of Sam Little. Did you know that Jillian Lauren, the journalist who got Sam to open up and share details of murders he had not shared with anyone else, details published in Behold the Monster, Facing America's Most Prolific Serial Killer, has been married to the bassist of Weezer, Scott Schreiner, since 2006. She also published Some Girls, My Life in a Harem in 2010, a best-selling account describing the years she spent between 1992 and 1995 as a member of the Prince of Brunei's harem. She now shares 2 adopted sons with her husband, Scott. She wrote about her struggles with infertility and her journey to motherhood through adoption in another, I don't know if it was best-selling, but I think it sold very well, book, 2015 memoir, Everything You Ever Wanted. She's performed on The Moth, given a TEDx talk, written all kinds of articles, published in all sorts of prestigious publications, and was recently arrested on suspicion of attempted murder. On Tuesday, April 8th of this year, 2025, 3 suspects fleed a hit and run on the 134 freeway around 3:25 p.m. near Lauren and Scott's home. The LAPD, responding to a request for assistance by the California Highway Patrol, was scouring the surrounding neighborhood of Eagle Rock for the suspects. The manhunt led officers to the back of a residence near where Lauren and Schreiner lived, or where they live now, police said. Their officers said they saw Lauren standing in the backyard of her neighborhood property with a handgun drawn. She'd come outside with a gun because the suspects fleeing the hit and run ended up in her yard, and she was afraid of a home invasion, it seems. Lauren pointed her gun at officers, repeatedly ignored their commands to drop her weapon. Then she opened fire, department spokesperson Jennifer Forkes said in a statement to the LA Times. And then Lauren was hit by officer gunfire and then fled into her home. It was a non-life-threatening injury. She later exited the property, was transported to the hospital by the LA Fire Department, police said. Police examined shell case evidence, reviewed video camera footage, then booked Lauren on suspicion of attempted murder of a peace officer. As of this recording, it does not seem she has been officially charged with attempted murder. Sounds like she might have a new book to write about after another crazy life experience. Not often I come across an investigative journalist whose life might be more interesting than the lives of the subjects that she has written about, and just wanted to share that.
Timesuck Top 5 takeaways.
Sam Little, the choke and stroke killer, has been sucked. Thank you to the Bad Magic Productions team for their help in making Timesuck. Thank you to Queen of Bad Magic, Lindsay Cummins, giving me the space to work on this content. Thank you to Logan Keith, helping to publish this episode, designing merch for the store at badmagicproductions.com. Thank you to Olivia Lee. I keep picking topics she has covered for initial research today. I think her streak of consecutive weeks is about to end, though. Sophie has a topic I want to cover next week. Also, thanks to the All-Seeing Eyes, moderating the Cult of the Curious private Facebook page, the Mod Squad, making sure Discord keeps running smooth, and everyone over on the Timesuck subreddit and Bad Magic subreddit. And now let's head on over to this week's Time Sucker updates.
Updates? Get your Time Sucker updates.
Evil Meat Sack, Crystal Tronner, sent an email to Bojangles at timesuckpodcast.com this week with the subject line of Geese Have Teeth. And she included a picture of a goose with teeth that I can never unsee. Also, all Crystal wrote, was, I'm sure someone has told you, but birds do have teeth. No, Crystal, no one had told me. Until you. Did not know that any birds had teeth. Never really cared for geese. They've always seemed mean to me. And now I have a reason to hate them. They're disgusting, terrifying bird teeth. Not a fan. Upsetting to look at photos of geese. They're nasty, sharp little fang teeth. And to nerd out a bit, they're not technically teeth. They're little cartilage spikes on the edges of their tongues, but they look exactly like teeth, and I fucking hate them. It's so creepy to see a fucking bird open its little beak and have what looks like a bunch of piranha fangs. Let's never talk about this again. Now, a kind meat sack. Brittany has sent in a message, much less likely to lead to nightmares, with a subject line of From Cult Kid to Question Queen, a love letter to the suck. And Brittany wrote, Hi, Dan and family and Timesuck family. First off, I'm awful at pronouncing things and wanted to share something I heard and loved. Never make fun of people for mispronouncing a word. It means they learned it by reading it. So it's your awesome constant thirst for knowledge that causes your mush mouth. I'll take it. Second, I wanted to throw in on the recent update from the Timesucker, who was feeling like you were too harsh on Christianity recently. As someone who was raised in a doomsday home church, cough, cough, cult. Someone who was forced to get married at 17 to an abusive man and had 3 daughters by 19, I think I might have some insight. When I finally got the courage to leave my husband, my family went crazy. My uncle essentially planned a surprise gathering where they tried to exorcise my evil demons like some Christian version of the show Intervention. Demons that my family believed were caused when I was molested by a family member at 8 years old. God damn it. It's all the fucking molestation in these fucking backwood, weird fucking doomsday churches. Ugh. Maybe caused isn't the right word. Molestally transmitted. My uncle came complete with oils and holy water. It was heartbreaking to hear my favorite uncle tell me that he had always seen a darkness surrounding me. Oh, Jesus. I was just a lost kid. Instead of my family getting me into therapy when I was young and protecting me, they blamed me. Then the church believed that if I left a man who was abusing me physically and sexually, I would end up in hell. They thought they were saving me. I spent years confused and hurt. I'm known in my family and at the church as the questioner. And thankfully, thank my lucky stars, my brain has always asked why to everything. The church's fear-mongering and guilt-tripping almost ruined my life and the lives of my 3 girls with its brainwashing. They aren't evil people. They just don't question. And they accept these backward thought processes that cause so much pain. Fuck, that's so fucking true. I've never understood why it's considered impolite for me to not join in when people pray or to admit I don't believe in God. But in America, it's never rude to expect people to say grace and openly announce their beliefs. Anyways, I love your curious brain, and finding this community has been a great delight in my life. I'm happy to say that I am now a successful, constantly curious, and happy woman with 3 happy, kind, amazing daughters. I clawed my way out of that hole of a life I created for my 3 girls. I clawed my way out of that hole of a life, and I created a good life for my 3 girls. I'm always striving to be kind and loving and to help people. And if that's not enough for capital G God, and he turns out to be real, then me and my molesty demon will kick rocks down in hell. Singing songs to and about some crazy deity for eternity sounds like a nightmare. Obligatory, not sorry for the length. 3 out of 5 stars. Your faithful meat sack, Brittany. Well, Brittany, thank you for sharing your message. And fuck, so sorry about what you went through in your childhood. Jesus Christ. Man. And thank you for being a part of this community. Yeah, I wanted to include your message because I think it illustrates one of the reasons I do say some polarizing stuff. I don't say the polarizing things I say to hurt people's feelings, to make people feel like they're being attacked, to make people feel bad. I really don't. I say things to make people who may have been victimized or otherwise hurt, just like you, people who are struggling with similar concerns, to have you feel more seen, heard, and less alone. That's a big part of it. And at the end of the day, maybe I am just some dumb fuck who doesn't get it. It's always a possibility. But I don't think a loving God, and I know most, religious people don't either. I don't think a loving God is going to punish a beautiful soul like you for leaving behind those who would be happy to see you suffer for their beliefs, and for punish you for becoming a loving and protective mother with 3 beautiful daughters. Beautiful in the sense of, I feel like I gotta say this too, like I'm not talking about physical. Obviously, I don't know what they look like, but beautiful souls, good people. And but if that is the case with God, if He's going to punish you, well, I'll be with you. I'll be kicking rocks with you and Molesty Demon, and we can talk about all sorts of fun stuff as we try to find a spot that's a little less hot, where we get burnt a little less aggressively or something. I love your brain as well. Thank you for the other stuff you wrote that I didn't share. And now one more. Very important safety announcement coming in from a very safe sack, Liam Whelan, who sent in a message with a subject line of Chris Cox Owl Attack. Mr. Timesuck, I have an Al Cox-related update that should interest you. In my opinion, something doesn't add up. An owl can do some serious damage. This is a quote you read from owl attack survivor Chris Cox, featured in the episode of the Staircase Murders. You then went on to say that Cox was not badly wounded. He wasn't bleeding all over the place. That's when I had to pause the episode, do some digging of my own, look into this Chris Cox character. Something was fishy. How would he know that an owl could do so much damage if he, in fact, had not been badly wounded? Well, that's where things get interesting. You see, after doing some sleuthing around on the internet, accessing old newspaper clippings and messages in various forums, I discovered that Chris Cox was, indeed, badly injured. Let me set the scene for you, based on the overwhelming evidence I found. Chris Cox and his business partner, Byron Unger, were walking in the parking lot outside of Unger's office on U.S. Highway 64, January 10th, when he was knocked in the back of the head, according to a WRAL news article from 2008. Now, immediately there was no blood. In fact, the article and quotes given by Cox and Unger in that interview seemed to point to more of a bludgeoning than actual scratches. However, according to a separate article, an interview written by esteemed journalist Mr. Richard P. Hole in 2008, Cox was recorded as saying, Byron and I started running back to our car. We didn't want to spend another second out there, but the owls kept attacking us. Our heads, our shoulders, our legs. Right as I was about to get into the car, one of the owls yanked down my pants, caused me to fall over. In a panic, Byron had stepped over me into the car already. As I was getting up, he slammed the car door out of instinct. Unfortunately, with my pants down around my ankles, my dick was out and was subsequently crushed. And when Byron slammed the door, my dick got instantly chopped off. Byron quickly opened the door again. My severed dick fell out of the car, whereupon a few of the owls began to fight over it. I was bleeding profusely now, and if it wasn't for Byron lifting me into the car and driving me to the hospital, I may have died from blood loss. So, Dan, I rest my case. Chris was, in fact, bleeding all over the place. And if it wasn't for those vicious owls, Chris Cox might still have his Chris Cock, attached to his body. Either way, if this gets read on the show, I really hope I fooled at least someone for a little bit, LOL. I look forward to the episodes every week. Love the content you do at Bad Magic. Hail Nimrod, Lucifina. Be careful with your dick. Your longtime and loyal space leader and Annabelle, Liam. Thank you, Liam. And I see what you did there. Right? I know, yeah, sure, on the surface, it looks like you're sharing that story just to get some laughs, which I appreciate, and it's very funny. But also, well, maybe Chris didn't slam his cocks, get in a door, didn't get it cut off. That could for sure happen. And you're just raising awareness over something we should all be concerned about. The very real danger of getting your dick slammed off in a door. Doesn't have to be a home door. Could be a car door, as you pointed out. And for that, I cannot thank you enough. Please be careful around both dicks and all sorts of doors, everybody. They can both on their own be dangerous, but together, so dangerous. Stay safe and hail Nimrod, everybody.
Next time, suckers. I needed that.
We all did.
Well, thank you for listening to another Bad Magic Productions podcast. Be sure and rate and review this show if you haven't already. Please and thank you. Scared to Death and Timesuck each week. Short Sucks, Nightmare Fuel, and the Timesuck Scared to Death podcast feeds twice a month. Please don't start spending decades living on the run, killing sex workers all across the country this week. Just schedule an appointment with a therapist, you fucking weirdo. And keep on sucking.
Nostalgic Productions.
Dinosaur bones, yeah, we want to see them. Dinosaur bones, yeah, where can we see them?
Had a lot of requests to play that snippet this week. A lot of people talking about how happy they were to have that little ditty stuck in their heads for days on end. So I just wanted to help it get stuck in your head again. I mean, come on. Who doesn't want to constantly think about those silly old dinosaur bones? You're welcome.
Dinosaur bones, yeah, we
Want to see them. Dinosaur bones. Yeah. Where can we see them?